The pen felt heavier than it should have in my 19-year-old hands. Mom placed her manicured finger on the signature line, her wedding ring catching the afternoon light streaming through our kitchen window. "Just sign here, sweetie. It's complicated tax stuff, trust structures, and estate planning. Your father and I are just making sure everything's properly organized so you won't have any headaches later." The document was thick, full of legal language that might as well have been written in ancient Greek. Something about irrevocable trust transfers and tax optimization strategies. Dad stood behind me, his hand resting reassuringly on my shoulder as he explained how this would protect the family assets and minimize our tax burden. I was a sophomore at State, majoring in psychology, and barely understood my own student loan paperwork, let alone complex estate documents. But these were my parents. Patricia and William Bennett had raised me, supported me, and never given me any reason to doubt their judgment. When they said this paperwork would secure my financial future, I believed them. So I signed, Natalie Bennett in my careful college girl cursive, transferring my $500,000 inheritance from Grandma Rose into something called the Bennett Family Preservation Trust. That was 10 years ago, a decade of assuming I was financially secure, that someday I'd have access to Grandma's nest egg that would help me buy a house, maybe start a business, secure my future. A decade of my parents casually mentioning how well managed the trust was performing, how grateful I'd be someday for their foresight. I had no idea I'd signed away $500,000 to fund my parents' lifestyle while I scraped by on a teacher's salary, splitting rent on a cramped apartment and driving a 15-year-old Honda with a temperamental transmission. The truth came out the way most lies do, accidentally, through a completely unrelated event that pulled on the wrong thread and unraveled everything. It started with a letter from the IRS, not to me, but to my parents, though it was mistakenly delivered to my apartment because we shared the same last name and similar addresses. I almost forwarded it unopened, but something about the official seal and the words Criminal Investigation Division made me hesitate. I told myself I was just checking to make sure it wasn't something urgent. Identity theft was common, and maybe they needed to know right away. So I opened it. What I found inside changed everything. The letter was notification that William and Patricia Bennett were under investigation for potential tax fraud, wire fraud, and violations of fiduciary duty in connection with the misappropriation of trust assets. It referenced account numbers, transfer dates, and dollar amounts that made my stomach drop. One line stood out like a neon sign. Investigation pertains to the improper transfer of approximately $500,000 from the Rose Bennett Memorial Trust to personal accounts belonging to the trustees. Grandma Rose's trust, my inheritance, the money I'd signed over for tax reasons. I sat on my kitchen floor, still holding the letter, as 10 years of casual lies crystallized into focus. Every time I'd asked about accessing the trust funds, Dad had given me vague explanations about market volatility and tax implications. Every time I'd struggled financially, student loans, car repairs, medical bills, Mom had sympathy but no solutions, despite supposedly managing a trust worth $500,000. Because there was no trust. Not anymore. They used my signature on those documents to legally transfer Grandma's money into their own accounts, then spent 10 years spending it while telling me it was being preserved for my future. My hands were shaking as I called the number on the IRS letterhead. I expected to reach some bureaucratic maze, but the woman who answered was Agent Sarah Chin from the Criminal Investigation Division. "I'm calling about a letter that was delivered to my address by mistake," I said, my voice barely steady. "But I think I might be a victim in this case." 3 hours later, I was sitting in Agent Chen's downtown office, a sterile room with government-issued furniture and motivational posters about tax compliance. She listened to my story with the professional calm of someone who'd heard variations of this tale many times before. "Family financial fraud is more common than people realize," she said, reviewing copies of the documents I brought. "Parents, siblings, trusted relatives, they know exactly which emotional buttons to push to maintain compliance from their victims." "But I signed the papers willingly," I said. "They didn't forge anything." "Willing signature obtained through fraudulent misrepresentation is still fraud," Agent Chen explained. "If they told you this was for tax purposes while actually planning to misappropriate the funds, that's textbook wire fraud. The fact that your family doesn't change the legal implications." She walked me through what the investigation had uncovered so far. My parents had indeed used the trust transfer documents to move Grandma's money into accounts they controlled. Over 10 years, they'd spend it on home renovations, luxury vacations, a boat, and Dad's failed attempt to start a consulting business. The paper trail is extensive, Agent Chen said, spreading bank statements across the conference table. Wire transfers to home improvement contractors, travel agencies, boat dealers. They weren't even particularly careful about hiding it. Probably because they never expected to get caught. In their minds, they legally convinced me to sign over money that they felt entitled to anyway. After all, it was Dad's mother who'd left the inheritance. In their twisted logic, they were just reclaiming what should have been theirs in the first place. What happens now? I asked. That depends on several factors. We're building a criminal case based on the tax fraud. They never reported the trust income properly, but the wire fraud charges require proving intent to defraud, which is where your testimony becomes crucial. Agent Chen explained that my signature on the documents, combined with their false representations about the purpose, could constitute wire fraud if they use electronic transfers to move the money. Given that most financial transactions over $10,000 involved wire transfers, this was almost certainly the case. Are you prepared to testify against your parents? She asked gently. The question hit me like a physical blow. 10 years of family dinners, holidays, birthday calls. 10 years of them asking about my life while hiding the fact that they'd stolen my financial security. 10 years of watching me struggle while they lived comfortably on money that should have been mine. Yes, I said. I'm prepared. The investigation moved quickly once I became a cooperating witness. Agent Chen had me review bank records, identify transactions, and provide context for various transfers. The evidence was overwhelming, a decade of systematic theft documented in meticulous detail. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed during family interactions. Agent Chen advised me to maintain normal contact while they built their case, so I continued showing up for Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings, making small talk while internally screaming. Mom would complain about rising grocery prices while wearing a designer handbag I now knew cost more than my monthly rent. Dad would lecture me on financial responsibility while planning another cruise funded by my stolen inheritance. The cognitive dissonance was nauseating. The confrontation I'd been dreading came sooner than expected. 3 months after my initial meeting with Agent Chen, she called to let me know they were ready to make arrests. We'll be executing search warrants and making arrests tomorrow morning, she said. I wanted to give you advance notice so you're not blindsided if they contact you. I spent that night staring at the ceiling, imagining how it would unfold. Would they be at home? Would the neighbors see? How do you arrest someone's parents for stealing their inheritance? My phone rang at 7:23 a.m. Mom's number, but Dad's voice, shaky and panicked. Natalie, we need you to come over right away. There's been some kind of misunderstanding with the government. They're saying, his voice broke. They're saying we stole money from you. Did you? I asked quietly. The silence stretched long enough that I knew the answer. It's complicated, honey. Can you just come over? We need to explain. No, Dad. It's actually very simple. You told me I was signing trust documents for tax purposes. Instead, you transferred my inheritance to yourselves and spent it. That's called fraud. More silence. Then Mom's voice in the background, crying. How does she know? How does she know? Because I'm not 19 anymore, I thought. Because I opened a letter that wasn't meant for me and discovered that my parents are thieves. The criminal trial lasted 8 months. I testified for 2 days, walking through the documents, the false representations, and the decade of lies that followed. My parents' attorney tried to paint it as a family misunderstanding and claimed they'd always intended to restore the money eventually. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Lisa Rodriguez, dismantled that argument methodically. If this was a temporary arrangement for tax purposes, why didn't they tell Ms. Bennett when they transferred the money to their personal accounts? Why didn't they provide annual statements showing the trust's performance? Why, when she asked about accessing funds for legitimate expenses, did they continue to claim the money was tied up in investments? The jury didn't buy the family misunderstanding narrative. Wire fraud, tax evasion, and breach of fiduciary duty. Dad got 3 years federal prison. Mom got 18 months and 5 years probation. But the criminal conviction was only part of the story. The civil restitution was more complex. By the time of sentencing, my parents had spent most of the original $500,000. The boat had been sold, but at a loss. The home improvements couldn't be undone. The vacation money was simply gone. However, the court ordered full restitution with interest, $500,000 plus 10 years of compound interest at the federal rate, bringing the total to nearly $750,000. Since my parents couldn't pay that immediately, their assets were seized and liquidated. The house I'd grown up in, Dad's retirement accounts, Mom's jewelry collection, everything went toward repaying what they'd stolen. It still wasn't enough to cover the full amount, so the court established a payment plan that would garnish their wages and Social Security benefits for the foreseeable future. The emotional aftermath was more complicated than the financial recovery. Dad wrote me letters from prison, rambling explanations about how the trust transfer had been meant as a temporary measure to avoid estate taxes, how they'd gotten in over their heads with expenses, how they'd always planned to make it right. Each letter contained the same hollow refrain: "We never meant to hurt you." Mom's approach was different. She oscillated between tearful apologies and bitter resentment that I'd destroyed the family by cooperating with law enforcement. According to her, I should have come to them directly instead of involving outsiders in private family business. The fact that they'd had 10 years to make things right voluntarily seemed lost on her. Extended family reactions were mixed. Dad's siblings rallied around the narrative that I'd been vindictive and ungrateful for sending my parents to prison. Mom's family was more sympathetic, particularly Aunt Linda, who'd apparently suspected something was wrong for years, but hadn't known how to address it. "Your grandmother would be heartbroken," Linda told me over coffee 6 months after the sentencing. Not about your parents going to prison, they made their choices, but about the fact that her granddaughter had to fight for 10 years to get what was rightfully hers. The money, when it finally started coming back, felt different than I'd expected. I fantasized for so long about what I'd do with my inheritance: buy a house, travel, maybe go back to school. But getting it back as court-ordered restitution came with emotional baggage that made it hard to enjoy. Every deposit into my account was a reminder of betrayal, of how naive I'd been, of how my parents had looked me in the eye for a decade while stealing from me. The money was mine, legally and morally, but it felt tainted by the process of getting it back. I used part of it for therapy, which proved more valuable than any material purchase. Dr. Martinez helped me work through the complex emotions of being financially victimized by family members. The anger was straightforward, but the guilt was more complicated. "It's common for fraud victims to blame themselves," she explained during one of our sessions, "especially when the perpetrators are family members. You feel like you should have known, should have been more suspicious, should have protected yourself better." "I was 19, I said. "I trusted my parents." "Exactly. You did what any reasonable 19-year-old would do. The failure wasn't yours, it was theirs for choosing to exploit that trust." 2 years after the trial, I used some of the restitution money to buy a small house. Nothing fancy, but mine. The first night I spent in my own home, I called Agent Chen to thank her. "Cases like yours are why I do this job," she said. "Family financial fraud is devastating because it doesn't just steal money. It steals trust, relationships, your sense of security in the world. When we can recover some of that, it matters." Dad was released after serving 2 years of his 3-year sentence. He called me once, a stilted conversation where he asked if we could move forward as a family. I told him I needed more time to process everything, which was therapist speak for probably never. Mom finished her sentence and moved to a small apartment across town. She sends birthday cards with generic messages and no return address. I don't respond, but I don't throw them away either. Dr. Martinez says I'll know when and if I'm ready to engage with that relationship again. The financial recovery took 4 years, but I eventually received most of the restitution. The final payment came with a letter from the court noting that the case was officially closed. After fees and interest calculations, I'd recovered $695,000 of the original theft. More importantly, I'd recovered something else: a sense of my own worth and agency. For 10 years, I'd been gaslit into believing that my financial struggles were normal, that the trust was being managed by people who knew better than I did. The legal process had validated what I'd always suspected deep down. I deserved better. I'm 31 now, 12 years removed from that kitchen table where I signed away my inheritance. I still work as a teacher, but now it's a choice rather than a necessity. The house is paid off, my emergency fund is solid, and I'm considering going back to school for my master's degree. Sometimes former students ask me for life advice. When they do, I always tell them the same thing: trust, but verify. Love your family, but understand that love doesn't exempt anyone from accountability. And if someone asks you to sign documents you don't understand, especially for tax reasons, get a second opinion from someone who isn't benefiting from your signature. The FBI agent was right. What my parents did was called wire fraud. But more than that, it was called theft. Not just of money, but of trust, security, and 10 years of my life spent believing lies. The money I eventually recovered was important, but the real victory was learning that I didn't have to accept being victimized just because the perpetrators were family. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones most willing to exploit that love for their own benefit. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to let them. Dad was released early for bad behavior and now works as a night security guard, his wages still being garnished for restitution. Mom works part-time at a retail store and lives in a studio apartment. Neither has contacted me in over a year, and I'm okay with that. The Bennett Family Preservation Trust never existed, except on the fraudulent documents they used to steal from me. The only thing it preserved was their lifestyle at the expense of my future. Agent Chen was promoted to a supervisory role and now trains other investigators on family financial fraud cases. She told me recently that my case is used as a teaching example of how trust documents can be weaponized against naive beneficiaries. Sometimes justice looks like handcuffs and prison sentences. Sometimes it looks like a government agent asking simple questions like, "Why didn't you know where your own inheritance was being held?" The answer, as it turned out, was worth $500,000.
I opened my banking app to see if I could squeeze groceries in before payday and froze at the top line. Carrier payment. $312.14. My available balance dropped to 80 skodos. 3. I had a list for Aldi sitting on my counter. Coffee, eggs, chicken thighs, and all I could see was that number swallowing rent money I'd already mentally assigned. My name is Christine. I'm 34, divorced 8 months, and I work as a scheduling coordinator for a home health agency. I rent a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a brick walk-up on the west side of town. It's Monday, May 12th, late afternoon, and I'm on call this week, which means my phone is basically my job. I keep a bare-bones cell plan with 2 lines, mine and my mum's. Unlimited talk and text, a modest data bucket, nothing fancy. My mum, Violet, is 61 and lives 10 minutes away. My dad, Kelvin, is 63 and still talks like every problem can be solved with teamwork and a lecture. My younger brother, Curtis, is 30. He's helpful when it suits him and allergic to receipts. I tapped the charge for details. No info, just the carrier name and the hit to my balance. I dialed customer service before I could overthink it, put the phone on speaker, and sat at my little kitchen table with a pen in hand. I keep a folder for bills. I pulled it close like I could block the charge with paperwork. "Thanks for calling," the rep said, voice cheerful in that corporate way. "Can I have your phone number and the 4-digit account PIN?" I gave him my number and the PIN I set when I added Mom's line last year. Curtis was the one who actually punched it in back then, leaning over my shoulder while we sat on my parents' couch. He'd said it would be easier if he handled it. He's also the one who used my info to check speeds when he set up my internet last spring. He'd asked for my birth date and the last 4 of my social, just to verify. I'd handed it over because that's what you do when your brother is helping and your hands are full of cables. "Thanks, Christine," the rep said. "How can I help today?" "I got a $312 charge from you guys I didn't authorize," I said. "I have 2 lines. No new devices. What is that?" I could hear him clicking. I stared at the small stain on the table from a coffee mug and tried to breathe like a normal person. "Okay," he said slowly. "I do see a new device financed last week. It was added on Thursday, May 8th, to your account as a new line. There's the device cost, the activation fee, and sales tax. That's likely the charge you're seeing." "No," I said. My voice came out flatter than I felt. "I did not add a line. It's me and my mom. That's it." "I understand," he said, now in the careful tone that says he's reading a script about identity verification. "The order shows an e-signature authorization and account verification. The signature captured here is C. Crawford." My stomach went hot and then cold. Nobody else in my life signs anything with a C. Crawford except me and Curtis. "Where was the order placed?" I asked. "Online? In a store?" "Looks like it was processed online and picked up in-store at our Riverside location. The billing address matches the one we have on file." "Of course it does. My parents' house is the address on my account because Mom can never find those little pieces of mail. Curtis still stops by there every other day." "Can you tell me the name on the line?" I asked. I unstuck my pen cap with my teeth and then put it down, forcing my hands to be still. "I need to know whose line was added." There was more clicking. "I need to read you a disclaimer," he said. "I can share information tied to your account for the purposes of resolving a billing question." "Fine." "Okay. The new line was added under the name Maggie Barnes," he said. He sounded relieved to have something definitive to say. "It shows as active with a device installment agreement." Maggie, my brother's girlfriend. 29, quick to laugh, quicker to look irritated when the check comes. She's been around for a year and a half, and I can count on one hand the times she's brought up money without sighing. "I didn't authorize that," I said. "How did this go through? What did you need to add the line?" "Whoever placed the order passed standard account verification," he said evenly. "They provided the PIN and confirmed the billing address. Then an e-signature was captured. C. Crawford. I can file a dispute and flag the order if you believe it was unauthorized." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Start the dispute," I said. I wrote the case number he rattled off in the margin of my grocery list. "And tell me the current total due on my account, including that line." He gave me a number that was exactly not what I budgeted for. I stared at my bank app again, the $86.03 glaring back. Payday was Friday. "Is there anything else?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, my voice steadying because anger does that. "What's the contact name the line is saved under?" Another click. "Maggie Barnes," he repeated. "That's the name on the account line." "Of course it is," I said, and finally let my pen bite into the paper hard enough to leave a groove. I hung up with the rep and stared at Maggie Barnes on my notepad until the letters blurred. Then I called Curtis. He answered on the second ring, background noise like a TV too loud. "Hey, Chris." "What's up?" "You added a line to my account," I said. "You used my PIN and signed C. Crawford." "It's just Maggie's line," he said, like we were discussing leftovers. "For a month. Chill. I'll send you 45 on Friday." 45 won't touch a $312 charge, I said. "And the bill total is higher now. Activation, taxes." "They always front-load it," he cut in. "Then it evens out. It's cheaper on a family plan. We talked about this, remember?" "Family saves." "We didn't talk about you using my account," I said. "Or my name." He sighed like I was being dramatic. "It's your account, so it had to be your name. They wouldn't let me pick up without the owner's signature. I verified with the PIN. Which you shouldn't have, I said. It's me and Mom on that plan. That's it. Look, I'll make it square Friday, he said. I'm between jobs. Maggie needs her number for interviews. It's just a month. I closed my eyes. The kitchen light hummed. Stay on the line, I said. I'm adding Mom. He groaned, but I merged the call. Mom picked up on the first ring, her voice soft. Hey, baby, everything okay? Tell her, I said to Curtis. He launched into it like a favor already granted. Maggie needed a line. I added it to Christine's plan because it's cheaper. It's just for a month. I'll send her 45 Friday. Mom made the tiny noise she makes when a plate cracks. I don't like this, Curtis. Before she could say more, Dad's number flashed in. I added him. 4 of us on the line, all breathing. Okay, Dad said, warm and authoritative out of habit. What's going on? Curtis added a line and financed a phone on my account without asking, I said. I kept my voice flat. I found out because my bank shows a charge for $312. There was a beat. We've got to stick together, Dad said, automatic as a reflex. If he's between jobs and she needs a phone, we don't make it harder. Christine, can you be a team player here? Being a team player costs me my rent, I said. I'm on call this week. If my service gets suspended because of this, I could miss work. There's a dispute open, and it was signed with my name. Don't go nuclear, Dad said. Companies mess up names all the time. They won't cut you off for one late bill. That's not how carriers work, I said. And he used my PIN. It's a family PIN, Curtis said, like he was offering a correction. I literally set it up for Mom. I'll send 45 Friday. That covers my part. Mom tried to smooth the edges. I hate arguing. Christine, maybe let him sort it by Friday. Curtis, no more surprises. Please. I stared at the grocery list under my hand. Coffee, eggs, chicken thighs. I had $86.03 to my name until payday. Fine, I said. The word tasted like a penny. Until Friday. But hear me, both of you. Do not add anything else. No more lines, no upgrades, no checking speeds. Got it, Curtis said too quickly. I'll talk to him, Dad said, which always meant, eventually, maybe. We're a family. We can get through a week. I ended the call before anyone could start up again. The apartment felt very quiet. I opened the carrier app and logged in. The dashboard loaded with a banner I hadn't seen before. Past due balance in red. The new total made my stomach drop. Prorated charges for the added line pushed this cycle higher. There was an activation fee listed. There was also a late fee I didn't expect because the due date had rolled to today at midnight after the line was added on Thursday. I took screenshots, one by one, saved them in a folder. Phone. May. I did the math with the pen I'd chewed earlier. If I paid it tonight, I'd be down to almost nothing. If I didn't, I'd be gambling my on-call phone against a promise Curtis had tossed out like pocket change. I set a calendar reminder for Friday anyway. Text Curtis for payment. It felt silly, like writing, "Remember to breathe." But it was something. I made eggs for dinner and skipped the chicken. The pan hissed. My phone lit up with a text from Curtis. Friday? I promise. Then, nothing. I wanted to throw the phone in the sink and turn on the water. Instead, I cleared the dishes and put my folder back on the shelf by the door where I keep rent receipts and warranties. I don't sleep well when there's money hanging over me. I woke up before my alarm, made coffee too strong, and opened the carrier app out of habit. A new red banner slid down from the top. Payment past due. Service interruption pending. I stared at it for a long beat, the steam from my mug fogging the bottom of my screen. Then I took another screenshot and added it to the folder. The red banner sat on my screen like a dare. Payment past due. Service interruption pending. It was Tuesday, 9:40 a.m. I had a nurse scheduled to call me at 10 to place a same-day wound care visit. I topped off my coffee and told myself I had time to sort it after the call. At 9:58, my bars went grey. SOS only. The top corner flashed, "No service," and my stomach dropped hard enough to make me lightheaded. I tried calling 611. It connected, a robot telling me to make a payment to restore service. I switched to my laptop, opened the carrier site, and logged in. The past due amount glared, 128.43. Due yesterday at midnight because the added line had shifted the cycle. I had $86.03 in checking. I clicked pay anyway, fingers cold, and entered my debit number. My bank popped up a warning. This would overdraw your account. I stared at it and hit submit. Rent could float 3 days. My job could not. The confirmation screen spun. I counted under my breath. 1, 2, 3. Like that would pull data out of the air. At 10:03, my phone buzzed back to life. Bars came up like floodlights turning on. One voicemail. I dialed the nurse before listening, and she answered on the second ring. "Hey, this is Christine with scheduling," I said, too bright. "Sorry I missed you. Let's get that visit placed." She gave me the patient info. I typed fast, emailed the therapist, logged the call, and pretended my hands weren't shaking. When the task was off my screen, I finally listened to the voicemail. The nurse's voice was tight with the kind of stress I get paid to absorb. "Christine, I'm at the patient's door. Need authorization for a same-day start," she said. Timestamp, 10 heats on the dot. I took a screenshot of the restored service time for my own record, and then opened my bank app. Negative 42.40. A grey line beneath it. Overdraft fee pending. I swallowed and took another screenshot. I dropped both into the folder on my desktop. Phone. May. Then I texted Curtis. "I just covered your mistake. Service was suspended. I had to pay and overdrafted to fix your mess. Do not add anything else." The dot started, stopped, started again. "My transfer's stuck," he wrote. "I'll fix it. Can I add a tablet for hotspot? Just for interviews. It can help me get back on my feet faster." I stared at the words. My screen showed our thread stacked above the banking app's red numbers, the two realities sitting on top of each other. I pressed my tongue to the back of my teeth and typed slowly. No. No more devices. No more lines. "You need to move off my plan by Friday." We agreed. Nothing else. He called. I let it go to voicemail. He texted again. "It's not a big deal. Tablet lines are like $10. Chill." I set the phone face down and breathed through the urge to throw it. Across the table, my folder sat with rent receipts and warranties and the printout of last month's phone bill. I slid the bill out and traced the lines with my finger like I could smooth reality by flattening paper. I opened a new note in my phone, typed a header. 5-day countdown. My thumbs hovered. Friday, 6 p.m., all extra lines gone. Clear, final. I wrote it and didn't hit send. Not yet. My mom called, the special ringtone I set for her jingling like a toy. I picked up. "Are you okay?" she asked. I tried to call and it went straight to voicemail. Then it rang, then it didn't. My service got suspended for a minute, I said. I fixed it. Oh, she said, small. Is it about the thing with Curtis? Yes, I said. I'm going to handle it. Your line stays. Don't worry. I don't like fighting, she whispered. He said it's just for a month. I know what he said, I said. I need to make sure I can answer my phone when nurses call me. She exhaled. Okay. After we hung up, I texted Dad. My service was suspended this morning because of the added line. I paid it to restore and overdrafted. This is not sustainable. He left it on red for 20 minutes and then replied, We're a team. Don't make it bigger than it is. He added a thumbs up like punctuation. I put my head in my hands for a count of 5. Then I sent one message to Curtis. Any money that hits my account before Friday reduces what you owe. Nothing else changes. No more access. He responded with a single word. Wow. Work didn't care about my family drama. Calls came in, visits shifted, a hospitalization cancelled a scheduled therapy. I did my job. Between tasks, I checked my account like poking a bruise. Still negative. A small grey line appeared. Overdraft fee $32 pending. I took a screenshot and filed it away. At lunch, I stood at the sink and ate a banana because the eggs had to stretch to Friday. I opened the note again. 5-day countdown. I drafted the rest of the text. You have 5 days to move your numbers. Friday, 6 p.m. Extra lines are gone. Do not add anything else. I'll keep Mom's and mine. I will not argue. I read it 3 times and didn't send it. Not yet. But the words felt like a handle I could grip. The noise in my head quieted to a low hum. At 3:17, Curtis texted. Okay. I'll see what I can do. Also, for real, a tablet would help with applications. Free with a plan. I didn't answer. I put my phone in the drawer with the takeout menus and set an alarm for Friday, 5 p.m. The label I typed was simple. Draw the line. By early evening, the adrenaline wore off and left a clear to-do list. I pulled my folder onto the table and wrote everything out like I was preparing for a meeting. Charge last week, $312.14. Carrier. Past due paid today to restore service, $128.43. Overdraft showing, $42.40. Overdraft fee pending, $32. Activation fee on account. Listed. Late fee added after due date was moved. Listed. Rent due, June 1st. 3-day grace after the 1st. I took photos of the app screens, the red banner, the itemized charges, the SOS only, and added them to an album. Then I opened a group text with Mom, Dad, Curtis, and after a second of hesitation, Maggie. I typed, Here are the numbers currently hitting my account because a new line and device were added without my permission. I sent the photos in order and followed up. I paid $128.43 today to get my service restored for work. That put my account negative. Overdraft fee pending. The $312.14 charge last week wiped out money I keep set aside for rent. Rent is due June 1st with a 3-day grace. I cannot carry this. Please move off my plan by Friday. The ellipses bubbled for a long time. Dad replied first. We've got to stick together. It's a phone, not a crisis. He added the thumbs up. I hate. Curtis chimed in. You're making this bigger than it is. We said a month. 45 on Friday like I promised. Maggie dropped a smiley and we only used what was already there. Family plan. Family. I stared at the screen long enough for my coffee to go cold. Then I pasted in the message I'd been avoiding and hit send. You have 5 days to move your numbers. Friday, 6 p.m. Extra lines are gone. I'll keep Mom's and mine. Do not add anything else. I will not argue. Silence sat in the chat like a weight. Then the flurry started. Curtis. Wow. Seriously? Over a little timing? Dad. Christine, come on. Don't do something you can't undo. You'll regret cutting your brother off. We don't freeze out family. Mom. I hate when we fight. Can we breathe and talk about this on Sunday? Maggie. I can send $20 tonight if that helps. Then the rest when Curtis gets his transfer. Curtis again. You're going to wreck the family over a plan that already exists. You said you'd be a team player. I typed, this is not wrecking the family. This is ending unauthorized use. Friday, 6 p.m. The extra lines are removed. Curtis. If my phone goes dark, you're messing with my job prospects. Dad. She's not turning off your life. It's just a phone plan. Work it out. Me. Work it out means you set up your own plan and pay for your device. You don't have my permission to use my account. That's the last time I'm repeating it. Maggie. We didn't take anything from you. We used a plan that already existed. It's cheaper this way. Me. Cheaper for you isn't the same as affordable for me. The bank charge and overdraft are mine. Screenshots above. Maggie. I said I could send $20 now. Do you want it or not? Me. This isn't a negotiation. Move your numbers by Friday. I'll keep Mom connected. The chat went quiet again, and I realized my hands had stopped shaking. I put the phone face down, refilled my mug with water because coffee would keep me up, and stood at the window counting porch lights. My phone buzzed on the table. I flipped it over expecting another guilt volley. It was an email from the carrier. Review your order. A new device order has been placed on your account. If you did not authorize this, contact us. Under it, device type, tablet. Status. Pending. My throat went tight. I took a screenshot before I even opened it. Then another of the timestamp. Then I opened the email and read the tiny lines. Placed online, pickup option selected, Riverside store. Same place as last week. I dropped the screenshots into the album and typed back into the group. Someone just attempted to open a tablet line on my account. Stop. Do not add anything. I will be at the carrier store before Friday to secure the account. Curtis responded fast. That wasn't me. Why would I do that after you just said don't? Maggie. We're literally on your thread right now. Why would we? Dad. This is getting paranoid. Companies send weird emails. Don't blow up over a typo. Me. The email has the store and a pending status. I'm not debating this. Any additional attempts will be documented to the dispute file. Move your numbers. Curtis. I said I'd send 45 on Friday. You're acting like I'm a criminal. I didn't answer. I forwarded the email to myself at work so I could print it in the morning. Set another reminder for Friday, 5:55 p.m. Draw the line and slid my phone back into the drawer with the takeout menus. Mum called a minute later. I let it ring twice and then picked up. Are you sure about Friday? She asked quietly. Yes, I said. Your line stays. You'll be fine. I don't want anyone mad, she said. They're already mad, I said, softer than I felt. This ends on Friday either way. I need my phone for work. Okay, she whispered, and we sat with the word for a breath, like setting a box down. After we hung up, I packed my bag for the morning, bills folder, a sticky note with the case number from yesterday, a pen that actually writes. I put my keys on top. The apartment felt steady for the first time all day. When another buzz came through, I didn't move. I knew what it would be before I looked. The fraud alert was duplicated as a text. A new tablet line was attempted on your account. If this wasn't you, visit a store or call us. Status: pending review. I added it to the album, turned the phone face down again, and let the screen go dark. Friday had a shape now. So did my boundary. I printed the fraud email first thing at the office and slid it into my bills folder behind the screenshots. By lunch, I drove to the Riverside store with the folder on the passenger seat and the case number on a sticky note. The rep who waved me over introduced himself as Neil. I set the folder down and told him the short version. A line added last Thursday under Maggie Barnes without my permission. E-signature as C. Crawford. Service suspended yesterday morning, and a tablet order email last night marked pending. He didn't argue. He pulled up my account while I laid out the papers. Okay, he said, eyes on the screen. I see 2 existing lines, yours and Violet's. 1 additional line added the 8th with a device installment, and I do see a pending order for a tablet line placed last night. It hasn't been picked up, so it's not finalized. Can you print me everything? I asked. Current itemized charges, that pending order, and anything that shows verification used. Yep. He tapped, then stepped to the printer and brought back a small stack. He circled the device total, the activation fee, and the pending status with a blue pen. We can also lock this down. That's why I'm here, I said. We went step by step. He changed my account PIN and had me type it twice on the keypad. He removed all authorized users. Right now, only you can make changes, he said. I'm adding an account note. No changes in store without the owner present with ID. I'm also turning on a port protection feature. Nobody can port your number out without the code we just set. Good, I said. What about that pending tablet? I'm cancelling it now. He clicked. It'll show as cancelled in a few minutes. If you get another email, bring it to me and we'll add it to the fraud notes. While he typed, I pulled up the credit bureau sites on my phone and froze my credit. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. One by one. Each gave me a confirmation number. I wrote them on the back of the printer receipt. It felt like putting bolts on a door that should have had them in the first place. My mom's line stays, I said, more to hear it out loud. You're good, he said. I've labeled her line as protected under your account. Removing other lines won't affect hers. He stapled the stack neatly. Keep these, he said. If there's a dispute, documentation helps. That's my love language, I said, and slid the packet into the folder. Back at my desk, Mom called. Is my phone going to go dark? She asked, already braced. No, I said. Yours and mine stay. I locked the account. Friday at 6, the extra lines go. Okay, she said. I just don't want you to fight at the store. I won't, I said. I'll hand them my ID and ask them to remove the lines. That's it. An hour later, Curtis texted. Sent you $45, screenshot attached, a bank app screen that said, transfer to Christine. $45 warm, a green check mark, today, 2:14 p.m. I opened my bank app. Nothing. I refreshed. Still nothing. I took a screenshot of my empty transactions and sent it back. Not received. He replied, It's processing. Banks are slow. Don't start. I didn't respond. I showed the screenshot to Annika at the coffee machine. She's the only one at work who knows the short version. She squinted. "That's a confirmation screen, not a receipt," she said. "You can make those in 2 minutes with a template, or schedule and cancel. If it didn't hit instantly, it didn't happen." "I figured," I said. "Just wanted someone else to say it." "Want me to say something else?" she asked. 5-day countdowns are my kink. I snorted. "Friday at 6, I said. "I set an alarm." When I got home Wednesday, I took everything out of the folder and put it back in order. Carrier itemized bill on top, then the pending tablet order now cancelled with a stamp, then the fraud email and text, then my bank screenshots. I wrote a fresh list on a clean sheet and taped it inside the folder. Friday, 5:55 p.m. Reminder. Draw the line. Remove extra lines at 6 Haas Gore. Change account PIN again after removal. Turn off and reset autopay to my cycle. Get printed receipts with timestamps. File everything Thursday was quiet on the family thread. Mom sent a recipe for baked chicken, like a peace offering. Dad sent a meme about teamwork. Curtis sent nothing. My bank still didn't show $45. I stopped checking after lunch and put my phone face down except for work calls. Friday, I worked through the day with one eye on the clock. I called the Riverside store in the afternoon and asked if Neil was working. The woman said he'd be there until close. At 4:30, Curtis finally texted, "You don't have to do this. We'll figure it out." I wrote back. Friday, 6 p.m. At 5:32, I slid the folder onto the passenger seat and drove across town. The sun was low, glaring off windshields. I parked facing the glass doors of the store so I could see inside. People moved around under bright lights, all the phones lit up like little stages. I turned off the engine and watched the seconds crawl on my dashboard clock. 5:38. 5:39. 5:40. I set my phone in the cup holder, screen dark, and rested my hand on the folder like it was a lever I was finally ready to pull. At 5:50, I took the folder off the passenger seat and walked into the Riverside store. Neil looked up from a terminal and gave me a small nod like we'd rehearsed this. "Hey, Christine," he said. "You good?" "I will be," I said. I handed him my ID. "At 6, draw the line." He glanced at the wall clock behind the counter, 5:53, and logged in. "We can stage it so it processes right at 6, he said. "Which lines are staying?" "Mine and Violet's," I said. "Remove the added line for Maggie Barnes." He clicked, then turned the screen so I could see the account overview. 2 numbers highlighted green, one in red with her name next to it. "I'll cue the disconnect," he said. "Once I hit confirm, the device tied to that line will stop working. If they want to port the number later, they'll need your account number and the port-out pin. Right now, port protection is on." "I'm aware," I said. My voice surprised me by staying calm. He printed a pre-change summary and slid it across the counter with a pen. "You'll sign that you're requesting removal of the one line," he said. "This is separate from the e-signature we talked about." I read it, signed, and checked the time on my phone. 5:57. A text from Curtis blinked onto the screen while I was holding it. Last chance to be reasonable. I set the phone face down and nodded at Neil. "Let's do it." At 5:59:45, Neil positioned his mouse over a button labeled Confirm Changes. The second hand on the wall clock hit 12. He clicked. "Removed at 6 p.m., he said. "I'm printing the time-stamped receipt." Paper, word. He stapled the removal confirmation to the summary and circled the time with his blue pen. 6, how? 12 p.m. "Now let's lock it again," he said. He had me choose a new pin, different from the Wednesday one. and type it in twice. He toggled port protection off and back on to refresh it, then updated the account note. No changes without owner present with ID. Autopay? I asked. Good call, he said. He pulled up the billing section. We adjusted the amount to reflect 2 lines instead of 3, and set the draft date back to its original cycle. He printed that confirmation too. My phone buzzed on the counter. I flipped it over. Messages stacked from Curtis. You really did that? Turn it back on. Right now. Then from a number I didn't recognize. Probably Maggie's new number on my screen since it was in my recent calls last week. I need my phone for work. This is petty. Before I could type, the bubbles stopped. The next message read, Not delivered. Neil glanced at the screen. They just got disconnected, he said, matter of fact. Anything else? My mom's number is safe? I asked, even though I'd already watched him check. You're good, he said. Yours and Violet's are active. Maggie's is removed. If anyone tries to add a line, they'll need you here, with ID. Thank you, I said. Can you print me one more copy of everything? One for home, one for a folder I keep at work. He did, handed me both stacks, and tucked a card with the store's general number on top. If you get any weird emails, forward them and come back, he said. And if someone gives you my name at the door, don't let them in. I almost smiled. That's already a rule at my place, I said. The sun hung low as I walked to my car. I put the receipts in the folder, set it in the passenger seat, and sat for a second with my hands on the wheel. For the first time in weeks, the number on my account would be something I could cover without a calculator. I started the engine and drove. Traffic was light. I got home a little after 6:30. The apartment felt like it had been holding its breath. I put the folder by my keys on the entry table and, on autopilot, took photos of the top page, removal confirmation, time circled in blue, and saved them to the album. Phone. May. My phone buzzed again as I set the folder down. Messages flooded in from Curtis for a solid minute. Short, angry bangs on the glass. Wow. You seriously left us with nothing. Answer your phone. Then, just as suddenly, the thread flattened. No new bubbles. The last one sat there with a grey, not delivered under it. I stared at the tiny warning triangle like it was a stop sign I finally decided to obey. I poured a glass of water, set it next to the receipts, and opened my bank app. No 45. No pending credits. Just my balance, steady for the moment, and the overdraft fee that would hit overnight. I wrote myself a note on a sticky. Monday. Move autopay back 1 day. It felt good to write something I could control. 10 minutes later, a hard knock shook the door. It wasn't the tentative tap of a delivery or the polite rap of my neighbor. It was a fist, fast and sure, the kind of knock that assumes the door will open. I looked at the folder, at the circle around 6:12 p.m., at the name Maggie Barnes, removed, and then at the door. The second knock came, harder, impatient. My phone lit up with my dad's name, and then went dark again when it rolled to voicemail. I took a breath that felt like stepping into cold water, moved to the door, and set the chain before I turned the deadbolt. I slid the chain and cracked the door. Curtis and Maggie were on the landing, lit by the yellow hallway bulb. They each held a phone in their hand, like it weighed a pound more than usual. "You embarrassed me," Curtis said, not bothering with hello. "My phone just died in the middle of a text." "I need my number for work," Maggie said, chin up. You didn't have to go nuclear. I kept the door against my hip and the chain tight. My folder sat on the entry table within arm's reach. I reached back, took the top page, the removal confirmation with the time circled in blue, and held it where they could see. It was removed at 6, I said. I told you it would be. Turn it back on, Curtis said. We'll figure it out next week. This isn't a faucet, I said. You added a line and financed a device with my account and my name. My service got suspended. I overdrafted to fix what you did. I'm not turning it back on. Maggie leaned closer, voice clipped. I work weekends. I can't get my schedule without my phone. Do you want me to lose shifts? You can start your own plan or grab a prepaid at the gas station tonight, I said. There are options that don't involve my account. Curtis shook his head. You're being dramatic. It's cheaper on a family plan. It's cheaper for you, I said. I lifted the paper in my hand, then swapped it for the earlier page, the one that showed the e-signature, C. Crawford. You signed my name last week? He didn't look at the page. They wouldn't give it to me without the owner signing. You know how stores are. You also tried to add a tablet after I said stop. I said, I have the pending order email. That wasn't me. He snapped. Maggie made a face like this entire conversation was a hassle. My phone buzzed on the table with Dad's name. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again and again like he knew he could wear me down. I'm not arguing, I said. I'm offering one option, and it's the only one on the table. Curtis laughed without humor. Here we go. $25 a week until the 312 and the late fees are paid, I said. No co-signing, no more access, no exceptions. You set up your own plan. If you need help figuring out what deposit they'll ask for, you can talk to the store, but I'm not giving you my account number or PIN. That's not an option, Maggie said, folding her arms. That's you punishing us. It's a boundary, I said. I'm done carrying what isn't mine. Dad's call pushed through again. Curtis jabbed a thumb toward my ringing phone. Put him on. Let's talk like adults. We've already talked, I said, for a week. He stepped back and put his hands on his hips like he was about to give me a chore list. I said I'd send 45 tonight. You saw the screenshot. I saw a picture, I said. My bank shows nothing. He flinched, barely. Banks are slow. Not for instant transfers, I said. 25 a week. That's the offer. Maggie shook her head. So we're supposed to what? Float with no phones while you feel righteous? There's a prepaid rack at the pharmacy 2 blocks over, I said. You can have a working line in 10 minutes. Curtis's jaw worked. If I put this on my own plan, they're going to want a deposit. I don't have it right now. Then start saving 25 a week, I said. And don't open lines on other people's accounts. My phone lit up again, this time with Mom. I picked it up and answered on speaker, keeping the chain set. Hi, Mom. Baby, she said, shaky. Can we please not do this at the door? Curtis says you cut him off. He says he needs it for work. This isn't at the door to be dramatic, I said, glancing at the chain. It's to keep things calm. Dad's voice rose in the background on her end. We're a team, Christine. You don't freeze out your brother over a bill. I stared at Curtis and repeated, even like I was reading off a card. $25 a week until the 312 and the late fees are paid. No co-signing, no more access, no exceptions. Curtis threw his hands up. She sounds like a robot. I didn't change a word. $25 a week until the 312 and the late fees are paid. No co-signing, no more access, no exceptions. Silence filled the hallway. The only sound was the buzz of the light and Maggie's sigh. Finally, Curtis scrubbed a hand over his face. Fine, I'll go down there tomorrow and put down a deposit somewhere else, he muttered. I'll figure it out. That's the adult thing to do, I said. He looked at the papers in my hand like they were an insult. You really brought receipts. I did, I said. I'll keep bringing them. Maggie tugged his arm. Let's go, she said, tired more than angry now. He stared at me one more second, like there was a script I'd forgotten to read from, then turned and clattered down the stairs. Maggie followed, not looking back. Their voices drifted down the stairwell, low, sharp, then fading as the door to the building creaked and shut. I slid the deadbolt, took the chain off, and put the papers back in the folder. My hands felt steady. The apartment was very quiet in the way I'd been craving. At 11:58, while I was in bed with the light off, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Curtis. What deposit do they want? Do you have Neil's number? I stared at the glow until it dimmed. Then I turned the phone face down and closed my eyes. I didn't answer him at midnight. Saturday morning I made coffee, opened his text and typed, "Call the store. Ask what deposit they require based on your credit. I don't have Neil's personal number. The card on my receipt has the store line." He replied a few minutes later, "They're open at 10. Do you have my account number and port pin?" "No," I wrote, "and I'm not giving you mine. Start fresh." He sent back a single thumbs up. Nothing else. Monday, I moved autopay back a day like I'd written on the sticky, checked that only 2 lines were billing, and changed my PIN again because it made me feel better. I called the store and asked for Neil. He picked up on the second ring. "Any more weirdness on my account?" I asked. "Nothing pending," he said. "Tablet order shows cancelled. Notes are on your file. You're locked up tight." "Good," I said. "Thanks for the printouts Friday." "Anytime," he said. "You did the right thing." The group text went quiet after the door scene. Mom called me about chicken recipes and the sale on asparagus. Dad didn't send a teamwork meme all week. Curtis didn't send the promised 45. My bank app was boring in the best way. Just the overdraft fee posting and the absence of surprises. At work, Annika leaned on my cube wall and asked, "How was Friday?" "I brought receipts and a chain on the door," I said. "He's going to start his own plan." She grinned. "Look at you, drawing lines, literally." A week passed. No new orders hit my email. No mystery lines popped up. I put my carrier folder behind rent in the stack by the door and didn't touch it except to slide in the Friday receipt. My on-call week ended and the next person took the phone. I slept hard for the first time in days. 2 Fridays after the cutoff, Curtis texted. "Paid a deposit today, starting my own plan." He attached a photo of a printed receipt with his name at the top, the carrier logo, and security deposit 200 Strauss in black and white. The timestamp matched the text. "Is this real?" I wrote. He sent a second photo, wider, his name on the account, the first month's bill estimate, an account number. The screen glare and the smudge of his thumbprint made it look blessedly unpolished. "Good," I typed. "Glad you handled it." There was a pause, then, So, when do you want the 25? Fridays, I wrote. By 6 p.m. Send it the same way every week. I'll track it. He didn't argue. At 5:14 that day, a real deposit hit my account. 25 ton from Curtis. The app didn't lie. I took a screenshot, printed it at the office, and made a new folder at home with a label on the tab. Curtis. Phone. I slipped the paper in behind the carrier receipts. The next Friday, it landed again. Then, the next. Each time I marked it on the inside of the folder with the date and a tidy check mark. No emojis, no commentary, just a line edging toward even. When he missed a Friday and sent it Saturday morning with a sorry, I marked it one day late and let it be. Maggie didn't text me once. Dad kept his opinions to his own phone. Mom called and said, "My phone still works fine," like she'd been holding that worry in her chest without naming it. "It will," I said. "Your line and mine are the only ones on there." I kept my credit frozen. I set a calendar reminder for 3 months out to revisit it. I made a password list on paper and put it in the same drawer as my passports and the spare car key. I stopped carrying my folder in my bag. It went back to the shelf by the door with rent receipts and warranties. It didn't feel like armor anymore. It felt like a file. One afternoon, Dad called and started with, "You know I love you, right?" "I know," I said. "I don't want you and Curtis to drift." He said, "We're a team." "We can be a team without me paying for his phone," I said. "He'll be okay." Dad went quiet a second, then said, "Your mother says her calls with you are lighter." "They are," I said. "I like that," he said, and didn't push further. I still flinch a little when an unknown number pops up or when a carrier email lands. I still keep screenshots, but I don't watch my bars out of the corner of my eye anymore. When a nurse calls, I answer. When Mom calls, it's to tell me about the birds at her feeder or to ask if I need anything from the store. When Curtis texts me a payment confirmation on Fridays, I respond with a single check mark and nothing else. It's clean. The story doesn't end with fireworks. It ends with a bill I can read in one glance and a phone that only rings for me. The consequences weren't about punishing anyone. They were about weight distribution. I stopped holding what wasn't mine, and it turns out my hands were the first thing to feel light.
I swear. 2 weeks, I promise. That's the text from my brother while I'm loading an extra set of sheets into the dryer, damp cotton sticking to my forearms. My name is Willow Blair. I'm 31, a scheduling coordinator at a community clinic, and I own a small 2-bedroom house with an unfinished basement on the east side of Akron, Ohio. The basement is cool year-round, smells like detergent and concrete, and has just enough headroom for a couch, a lamp, and the washer-dryer along the back wall. I keep my work hours steady, 7:30 to 4:00, and I am in bed by 10 most nights. I paid for this place with a modest FHA loan in 2022, and I track my bills on a spreadsheet because no one else is going to do it for me. Julian is 27, my only sibling. He's sweet when he wants to be, and slippery when he's stressed, a guy who makes money driving deliveries and picking up odd jobs. He says his month-to-month rental fell through because the landlord sold the building and their deposit is on its way. Caitlin, his girlfriend, is 26 and small-talk polite. Her cafe cut her shifts back, she says. They asked to crash just for 2 weeks, until the deposit clears and they find a new place. I text back, 2 weeks, we'll set ground rules. They show up that evening with 3 duffel bags, a box of mismatched kitchen stuff, and a mini fridge I didn't know existed. It has a dented door and a sticker of a palm tree on it. The sun's already down, the street lights are on, and the air has that late February bite that crawls up your sleeves. Thank you, seriously, Julian says at the door, pulling me into a hug that smells like winter air and gasoline. Caitlin holds a tote bag to her chest and offers a smile. "We won't be in your way," she says, eyes sliding past me to the stairs that lead down. "In the kitchen," I say, pointing to the table. 5 minutes for ground rules. We stand around the scratch table I bought from a thrift store. The dryer thumps behind the wall. "Okay," I say. "No space heaters. The wiring down there is old, and my electric bill is already high in winter. Laundry has to be before 10 p.m. I have to be up at 6, and we'll revisit everything after exactly 2 weeks. If you need longer, we talk about money." Julian nods quickly, hands up like I'm giving him a ticket. "Fair." "Totally fair." "Totally," Caitlin echoes, eyes on the floor. "Bathroom upstairs is yours to use, but clean up after yourselves," I add. "And please, no extension cords snaking all over. If you need an extra lamp, I have one." Julian drops a bag by the basement door and grins. "You're saving my life." I want to believe him. I want to be the sister who helps, not the sister who keeps score. We carry the mini fridge down the narrow stairs. It bumps my hip on the landing, and I swallow the sting. I set up the old futon couch with the clean sheets from the dryer, leave 2 towels on a chair, and plug in the lamp near the support beam. Caitlin stacks their shoes in a neat line. Julian pulls out a tangle of phone chargers and a small Bluetooth speaker. Mum calls around 9. Trisha is 58 and eternally trying to keep the peace with a soft voice and a hopeful plan. "Be patient with him," she says. "He's trying." "It's just for 2 weeks." "I know," I say, glancing at the digital clock on the stove. 9:06. "We set rules." "That's good," she says, relieved like I've handed her a solution. "You're a good sister." I turn in early. From my bedroom, I can hear the muffled TV from the living room where Julian's flipping through streaming options with the volume low. My window faces the driveway. The street is quiet except for a distant dog and the occasional car rolling through the stop sign. Sometime after 11, I wake to a new noise. A low, steady hum I can't place. It's not the furnace. It's softer, constant, like a small engine. I tiptoe to the basement door and crack it open. Cold air slides up the stairs. The hum grows a hair louder, a little heartbeat against concrete. I pad down 4 steps and stop. The mini fridge is plugged in, door light glowing. No big deal, I tell myself. They need somewhere to put groceries. But there's something else, an orange wash of light flickering from under the stairs. I lean sideways and see it. A squat space heater, its coils lit like a little campfire, aimed at the futon. I stand very still, one hand on the railing. We just said no space heaters less than 3 hours ago. I could go down and unplug it. I could call his name. Instead, I turn back up the stairs, one careful step at a time, and close the door gently behind me. In bed, I stare at the ceiling and count my breaths. 2 weeks, I remind myself. 2 weeks. And we revisit. The hum carries through the floorboards, a sound I didn't have in my house this morning. I set my alarm for 6, because work comes either way. 2 weeks blur into 3. The basement develops new sounds. Soft motors, a periodic beep when the washer finishes, the dryer door thudding shut after midnight. On February 28th, 4 days in, I come downstairs at 6:05 a.m. On my way to work and step around 3 open detergent cups lined up like shot glasses. The blue lid is sticky. I wipe the ring off the washer with a paper towel, clear the lint trap, and set the cups back upright. The futon is unmade. The mini fridge hums. A candle that smells like vanilla cookie sits on the support beam, unlit but ready. At 9:40 that night, I hear the washer start again. I stand in the hallway with my toothbrush in my mouth and look at the clock on the stove. 9:41. I knock on the basement door. "Hey," I call down. "Laundry has to wrap by 10, okay?" "Almost done," Julian shouts back, cheerful like we're on a game show. "This is the last one." March starts. I tape a printed March calendar from the internet to the fridge, blank boxes, a magnet shaped like a tomato holding up the top edge. The first Monday, March 4th, They come home with a discount store bag. Caitlin sets a toolbox by the basement door. "What's that?" I ask. "A fan," she says. "Tower fan." "For air. It's stuffy down there in the mornings." "It's 40 degrees outside," I say. "Just the mornings," she says again, like a song lyric. "It gets cold." She lifts her chin toward Julian. "We've been getting up early for applications." I glance at the box. The store sticker says $24.99. The seal is unbroken. "We said no space heaters," I say. "Right, for sure," Julian says. "No heaters." He kisses the top of her head, then looks at me. "We're almost out, just waiting on a deposit to clear." "From who?" I ask. "The last place," he says. "They mailed it Friday." "Okay," I say, careful. "Remember, laundry before 10, and please don't run cords everywhere." That afternoon, taking out the recycling, I see it. An orange extension cord snaking from the outlet by the breaker box, looping along the base of the wall like ivy. It splits into a cheap white 3-way adapter under the stairs. I crouch and follow it with my eyes. Phone chargers, the mini fridge, and a small grey space heater with a plastic grill tucked behind a crate. It switches off now, but the plug is warm. I unplug the heater and set it on the bottom stair. When I get home from work the next day, it's gone from the stair and back under the futon. A different one shows up by the support beam a few days later, slim and black. "Just for the mornings," Caitlin says, handing me an empty coffee mug like a peace offering. "It's the only time." On March 9th, exactly 2 weeks, I make pasta for all of us. The sauce simmers, my timer ticking down on the counter. "So," I say, stirring. 2-week check-in. Julian is scrolling on his phone at the table. Caitlin is sorting silverware. "We've got a line on a place," he says without looking up. "We're almost out, promise? The deposit is clearing, like, any day." "Where?" I ask. "Near Toolmadge," he says. "A guy from my route knows a guy." "What's the rent?" I ask. He shrugs one shoulder. "We're still talking numbers." I nod and set plates down. "Okay," I say. "Keep me posted." I want him to tell me dates. He gives me air. Dinner is quiet except for forks and a dumb cooking show on low in the background. The next week is more of the same. The washer starts at 9:52. The dryer runs until 10:40. I come downstairs at 6:00 a.m. and the clothes are still damp, so I drape a hoodie over a chair to keep it from getting that wet sock smell. There's a new bottle of detergent on the floor, cap off, a glug of blue puddled in the plastic rim. On March 14th, I stand on the small concrete pad by the side door with my mug and look at the meter on the east wall. It's a smart meter with a little red LED that blinks when power is moving. The morning is quiet. No delivery trucks yet, just a chickadee in the maple and the leak of someone's radio 2 houses down. The LED blinks so fast it looks almost solid. I didn't used to notice it. Now I watch it like it's telling me a secret. That night, Caitlin comes home with a brown paper bag and a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "We brought groceries," she says, lifting out eggs, coffee, a frozen pizza. "We'll cook for you." "Thank you," I say. "Listen, no space heaters. Please." "It's a fire hazard and the bill, it's just for mornings," she says softly. I set it on one, I swear. She rubs her hands together to show me they're cold. Julian leans on the counter, grin easy as ever. "We're almost out," he says. "Just waiting on a deposit to clear." On March 16th, day 21, I pull the March calendar off the fridge and print a fresh one. I write check-in in red Sharpie on the box for Saturday the 23rd and circle it hard enough to bleed through. I stick it back up with the tomato magnet and a piece of tape for good measure. Julian opens the fridge, sees it, and nods. "We'll have good news by then," he says. "I need real dates," I say. "Not vibes." He laughs and salutes me with a jar of pasta sauce. "Dates? Got it." That night, lying in bed at 10:12, I hear it again. The hum downstairs, the tiny symphony of everything running that didn't used to exist in my house. I set my alarm for 6. Work comes either way. The email hits my phone on Friday morning, March 29th, subject line. Your Ohio Edison bill is ready. I'm at the clinic break room counter pouring coffee. I thumb it open and stare at the number. It's $238 higher than my average for March. Due April 10th. There's a little bar chart in the email. Usage up 71% from last month, compared to similar homes, highlighted in yellow, like a teacher's note. I swallow the coffee wrong and cough into my elbow. I forward the bill to my personal email, print it on the clinic copier before my shift starts, and add a second page from my spreadsheet. Last year's March, this January, February. I circle the difference in red pen. $238. When I get home, the March calendar with check-in circled on the 23rd is still on the fridge. We did talk that day. They sat at the table, Caitlin picking at a hangnail, Julian smiling with his whole face like this was a job interview that was going well. We've got leads, he said. Near Tallmadge. Deposits on the way. No dates, no lease. I said, I need real dates. And he said, end of the month. I wrote nothing new on the calendar because end of the month isn't a date. Now it's the 29th, and I put the printed bill and my spreadsheet on the kitchen table next to a ballpoint and a sticky notepad. The basement hum is steady under my feet. Mini fridge. Charges. Something with a fan. I text Julian, kitchen table when you're home. They come up together around 6. Caitlin's hair is damp from a shower. Julian is upbeat, hoodie sleeves shoved to his elbows. He sees the papers and makes a face. What's this, he says. My electric bill, I say, and my averages. Sit, please. They sit. I slide the bill toward them and tap the circled number. It's $238 higher than usual. It's due April 10th. This is the difference between my normal March and this March. 2 space heaters, a mini fridge, nightly laundry, devices plugged in all the time. I need $238 by the 10th. Julian laughs softly, like I told a joke, and glances at Caitlin. You've got that salary job at the clinic, Will. Can't you just eat it this month? I keep my voice even. No, I can't. Caitlin's eyes flick between us. It's just been cold, she says. We don't run them all day. I hear them, I say. And the meter outside doesn't lie. I keep my hand flat on the table so I don't point. This isn't rent. This is utilities you used. I need $238 by April 10. Julian leans back in the chair, crosses his arms, then uncrosses them. We're waiting on the deposit, he says. It should be here any day. I'll make it right, I swear. Great, I say. Use it to pay me by the 10th. He stares at the bill like it might change if he looks long enough. You really can't spot me this one time? I'm not spotting you, I say. I'm asking you to pay the difference you created. He shakes his head, half smile gone flat. You're salaried. I have a mortgage, I say. I have other bills. Being salaried doesn't make heat free. We sit in the quiet. The fridge ticks as it cycles. A car goes by and throws light across the wall. Caitlin's fingers are wrapped around a glass of water. I can see the pink groove where a hair tie has been around her wrist all day. I'm not trying to fight, Julian says. It just feels harsh. It's accountability, I say. We set rules. You broke the space heater rule on night 1. I let it go. This is me not letting this go. Caitlin nods, small. We can try, she says to him. We can figure it out. I slide the sticky note toward them with the number and the date written in block letters. 238 by 410. I'm going to text this, so it's written down. And if something changes, you need to tell me before the due date, not after. Julian presses his lips together and looks out the window like there's an answer there. Finally, he says, Fine, we'll see what we can do. Thank you, I say, because polite helps me stand my ground. I collect the papers, tuck them back into the manila folder I use for house stuff, and put the folder on the counter where I'll see it. After they go downstairs, I type out the text in the family thread with just the 3 of us. Recap from tonight. March electric bill is $238 higher than my normal. Due April 10. Please pay $238 by 410 to cover your added usage. Mini fridge, nightly laundry, space heaters, extra devices. If you can't, tell me by 4/7 so we can plan. Going forward, no space heaters, laundry must finish by 10 p.m. We'll revisit living plan on 4/13. I read it twice, making sure it's plain. I hit send. The grey delivered pops up under it, then the little Julian red marker. Caitlin's dot appears and disappears. No replies. I put my phone face down and check the side door lock. Outside, the LED on the meter blinks fast enough to look almost solid. I watch it for a minute in the cold and tell myself out loud, April 10th. Then I go back inside, rinse a coffee mug, and set my alarm. Work comes either way. By Monday afternoon, my phone is buzzing on my desk like it's trying to jump. I'm between calls at the clinic, the hold music humming in one ear, when the family group chat lights up. Julian. Wild that my own sister is charging family for heat. Julian. Imagine nickel and diming your brother when you're salaried at a clinic. He spells out salaried like it's a diagnosis. The burr of the vending machine in the break room sounds louder than my breathing. Mum drops in 4 pleading face emojis and a heart. Mum. Be nice. He's trying. I stare at the screen until the words blur. I scroll up 2 days to my recap. $238 by 4:10 to cover added usage, no space heaters, laundry before 10, revisit 4:13, delivered, read, no response. Gwendolyn glides into the break room, sets a granola bar next to my elbow like she's putting down a chart. That your family? She asks, eyes on my face, not my phone. Yeah, I say. He's mad I asked him to pay the electric difference. She nods once. Document everything, then decide what you can live with. I unwrap the granola bar even though I'm not hungry, because chewing is something to do while I think. I open the group chat and type slowly, making the words plain. Me. For the record, 2 weeks ended 3/9. I allowed an extension through March. March electric is $238 higher than my normal and due 4/10. If I do not receive $230 by 4/10, and if you are not moved out, pick up your belongings by 4/15. Items left after 4/15 will be treated as abandoned and sold to cover utilities and cleaning. I read it 3 times. No adjectives, no apologies. I hit send. The grey delivered bubbles pop. Julian read, Mum read, then nothing. I slide my phone face down on the counter and call the next patient on my list. By the time I get home at 4:50, the basement hum is steady enough I can feel it through the soles of my shoes. I hang my coat, put my keys in the bowl, and go straight to the side door. The little LED on the meter blinks fast, almost solid in the dim light. I snap a picture of it, and then of the calendar on the fridge where check-in is still circled on the 23rd. I grab a red Sharpie, write pick up by 4:15 in the box for the 15th, and circle it twice. Julian is in the kitchen when I turn around, pouring cereal into a mixing bowl like a college kid. He glances at the calendar and then at me. So we're doing ultimatums now? I'm setting a deadline, I say. You asked for end of the month, and it's April next week. The bill is due 4:10. Pick up your stuff by 4:15 if you're not moved out. He scoffs into his cereal. You love a rule. I love paying my mortgage on time, I say. You can be mad, and also Venmo me the $238. He shakes his head, milk sloshing. You really want to put our business in the family chat? You did, I say, and I don't raise my voice. You called me greedy. He puts the box down harder than he needs to. You're salaried, he says again, like that closes the argument. And you've been using space heaters after I said no, I say. This isn't a fight. It's what happens next. Caitlin steps up from the basement holding a basket of folded towels. Can we not? She says softly. I'll talk to him. I'm talking to both of you, I say. $238 by 4:10. Pick up by 4:15. Caitlin nods without meeting my eyes, shifts the basket on her hip, and goes back downstairs. Julian pours more cereal than anyone needs and disappears into the living room. I take pictures. The box of the tower fan by the basement door, the orange extension cord that runs from the breaker box to the futon, the two small space heaters tucked under different chairs like pets, the mini fridge with the palm tree sticker humming in its corner. I take a close-up of the washing machine clock at 9:47 p.m. when it spins up again, because I need a receipt for myself as much as for him. Mom texts around 8. Mom, he's embarrassed. This isn't helping. Me, I'm not trying to embarrass him. I'm trying to set a boundary. Mom, can you just be nice? He's trying. I type and delete 3 drafts before I send. Me, being nice isn't the same as paying his bills. I love him. He needs to pick up by 4:15. The typing bubble pulses and then disappears. In bed, I mute the family chat for 1 hour, and then, when the laundry starts at 9:58 for the rest of the night, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and tuck my hands under my pillow so I don't scroll. Tuesday morning, I'm up at 6. The hoodie draped on the chair is still damp. I add it to the back of a dining room chair near the heat vent and crack the basement door to air it out. The hum rises. I shut it again. On my lunch break, I print my email receipt for the electric bill and tuck it into the manila folder with my house stuff. I add a new label in pen. March, April utilities. Then I scroll the chat once more. The last message is mine. Under it, 2 read receipts. Still no replies. April 10th comes and goes without a payment. I stand at the counter after work with my laptop open, the electric bill on the screen, and click Pay in Full, because I'm not adding a late fee to the pile. The confirmation email pings. I print it at the clinic the next morning and slide it into my Manila house folder. I send a text to the thread with Julian and Caitlin. I paid the bill to avoid late fees. I still need the $238 from you by 4:15. If items are not picked up by 4:15, I'll sell them to cover utilities or cleaning. This is notice. The Julian red dot appears. No reply. Friday night, the washer runs at 9:56. Saturday morning, I sweep the kitchen and stack my mail in tidy piles because I need to control something. On Sunday, April 14th, I'm in socks on the living room rug, going through a basket of mismatched cords, when the basement door slams open hard enough that a magnet slides down the fridge. Julian comes up 2 steps at a time, rattled. He's already got his shoes on, and his backpack slung over one shoulder. He goes straight to the hall closet and grabs a sweatshirt that isn't his. Hey, I say, that's mine. He tosses it back and yanks the zipper on his backpack. I'm not playing landlord games, he says, voice up in a way that means he's winding himself tight. He ducks into the bathroom, grabs his toothbrush and a razor, and stuffs them in the front pocket. I lean against the doorframe, keeping my voice level. Pick up your stuff by tomorrow. He mutters something that sounds like, unbelievable, and shoulders past me to the front door. He doesn't look at me when he says, we're not your tenants, like he's practicing a line for someone else. You're not, I say. You're my brother. That's why I gave you 2 weeks, and then a month. Pick up your stuff by tomorrow. He's halfway out when he turns back. You're really going to sell my stuff? For heat? For the utilities you used, I say, and for the cleaning I'll have to do. Pick up your stuff by tomorrow. He shakes his head, laughs once without humour, and leaves. The door closes, a firm click. The house goes quiet. Then the hum under my feet fills in again. The mini fridge, the chargers, the fan. 10 minutes later, Mum calls. What is happening? She asks, like she's walked in at the middle of a movie and missed the setup. I reminded him, I say. Pick up by tomorrow. Don't escalate, she says quickly. He's upset. He feels attacked. I'm not attacking, I say. I set a deadline 2 weeks ago. Pick up by tomorrow. I can hear myself repeating it like a recording, but it keeps me from explaining myself in circles. Can you just... She starts. No, I say. Pick up by tomorrow. I have to go. I hang up gently before I soften and say something I can't enforce. That night I text the thread one last time. Reminder, 4:15 is the pickup date. Items left after 4:15 will be treated as abandoned and sold to cover utilities and cleaning. I attach a photo of the calendar square with the red circle around the 15th and my handwriting. Delivered. Read. Silence. Monday the 15th, I clock out for lunch at 12:02 and drive home. The side door sticks like it does when it's humid. The basement smells like warm plastic and damp cotton. It looks like a thrift store aisle. There's the mini fridge with the palm tree sticker humming in its corner. The 2 space heaters. The grey one with the plastic grill tucked by the crate. The slim black one near the support beam. A TV stand they brought in week 2 sits against the far wall, scuffed at the edges. A lamp I lent Julian last Christmas has a bent shade, still plugged in. Piles of clothes spill out of a laundry basket. Hoodies with sports logos, jeans, socks that don't match. The unused tower fan box leans against the stairs. I stand there for one deep breath, then go upstairs and pull the manila folder from the drawer. At the clinic printer this morning, I ran off screenshots of the group chat, my original recap, the $238 note, the 4:10 due date, the 4:15 pickup, the treat as abandoned line. I slide the stack into a clear plastic sleeve, front page facing out. I tuck the electric confirmation behind it. I set the sleeve on the dining table by the salt shaker where I can grab it fast. I text across the street. Hi Monica, random favour. Do you still have those folding tables? Borrow 1 or 2 for a day. Monica replies 2 minutes later. I've got 2. Come get them. You okay? I answer, I will be. Thank you. I cross the street, and Monica meets me in her garage, neat as a library. Rakes on hooks, bins with labels. She watches me load the tables into my trunk. You need help, she asks. I'm okay, I say. Just organising. She nods, doesn't push. Bring them back whenever. I spend my last 10 minutes of lunch pulling a couple of empty boxes from the attic and clearing the top of the dining table. On my way back to work, I snap a photo of the meter LED blinking fast. Documentation. I tuck my phone in my scrub pocket and go. After dinner, I carry the folding tables to the driveway and leave them folded for morning. I gather tape, a Sharpie, masking tags, plastic grocery bags. I wipe down the TV stand and the mini fridge door with lemon cleaner. At 9:30, I print abandoned property in block letters on a piece of poster board and leave a space under it for text notice sent. At midnight, I sit on the living room floor with the clear sleeve next to me and price tags in my hand. $25 for the mini fridge, $10 each for the heaters, $15 for the tower fan, $20 for the TV stand, hoodies $5, lamp $8 because the shade is bent and it used to be mine. I write until my hand cramps and the Sharpie fumes make my eyes water. When I finally turn off the lamp, the house is quiet. No washer, no dryer, just the faint hum of the fridge upstairs and the click of the furnace settling. I set my alarm for 6 May. Tomorrow is the 16th. At 7:40 a.m, I make coffee, pull my hair into a clip and move the folded tables onto the porch. The driveway is still wet from dew. A robin scolds me from the maple like I'm too loud for this hour. I tape the hand-lettered sign to the garage door. Abandoned property sale. Text notice sent. Under it, I tape a printout photo of the calendar square with my red circle around 4:15. I set the clear plastic sleeve of screenshots dead center on the first table like a placemat. At 8 now on the nose, I flip the tables open. The metal legs scrape concrete. I spread out what I tagged last night. Hoodies in one pile, jeans folded, socks lumped together as 3 for $1. The mini fridge with the palm tree sticker sits on the ground by my lawn chair with a $25 tag taped to its dented door. The 2 space heaters, grey one, black, slim one, $10 each. Tower fan $15 still in its box. The TV stand I wipe down leans against the table with a $20 tag. The lamp with the bent shade is $8 and looks like it knows. I add one more tag I didn't write last night, because I missed it. A little end table that came up with the TV stand in week 2. I stick $10 on it and wipe a coffee ring off the top with my sleeve. Monica crosses the street at 8:10 in her windbreaker and sneakers, holding $2 bills and some quarters. "Morning," she says, eyes drifting over the tables, then to the sign, then to my face. "Morning," I say. "Thank you for the tables." She pats the nearest one. "They see some action." She taps the end table. "How much?" "10, I say. She smiles and fishes out exact change. "I'll take it." She tucks the quarters into my palm and winks. "Honey, sometimes grown-ups need a receipt to behave." I nod and tap the plastic sleeve. "I've got them." Noah walks by with his grey pit mix. Moose, who snuffles the grass and sneezes. "You doing a sale?" he asks, surprised but not nosy. "Abandoned stuff," I say. Text notice sent. He reads the sign, then glances at me like he's placing context. "You need help hauling anything?" "If you don't mind," I say, nodding toward the TV stand. He loops Moose's leash around his wrist, and we carry the stand together to the driveway. "Where you want it?" "Right here," I say, setting it on a tarp I brought up from the basement. "Thank you." "No problem," he says. He crouches to check the screws. Sturdy enough. "Somebody'll take it." He jogs back down the sidewalk after Moose, who's already dragging toward the corner. By 8:30, a couple in a minivan slows, reverses, and parks. The woman buys 3 hoodies and hands me a 10. A guy in work boots with paint on his pants points at the tower fan box. 15? He asks. 15, I confirm. He peels off a 20 and waves away change. "Keep it," he says. "Looks like you got a project." "Thank you," I say, unexpected heat behind my eyes making me blink. I keep a running tally on an index card clipped to a clipboard. $10 end table, $15 fan, $15 hoodies. I tuck bills into a zippered pencil pouch and drop coins into a ceramic mug. There is a small, strange lightness in the arithmetic. Counting out 5s and 10s feels like oxygen. My phone buzzes at 9:02. "Caitlin, you're actually doing this." I angle the screen, take a picture of the calendar with the red circle and the 4:15 note, and send it back. Yes. Text notice sent 4:1 and 4:14. Pickup was yesterday. 3 dots, then nothing. Around 9:20, a teenager with a skateboard buys the black space heater for 10 and asks if the mini fridge works. "Yes," I say. "Cold as it gets." He debates, leaves, comes back with 2 more crumpled 5s and grins when he can carry both. No returns and helps me maneuver the mini fridge into his hatchback without denting it more. Monica reappears with a reusable grocery bag and buys the lamp for 8. "It'll go in the guest room," she says. Shade facing the wall. "That's how I had it," I say, and we both laugh, small and real. By 10 the table looks picked over in a satisfying way. I've got little tags curling at the corners, empty spaces where things used to be, and a pencil that needs sharpening. I keep the screenshots out and visible. A man in a straw hat reads them and nods to himself like a judge reviewing a docket. My phone buzzes again. "Mum, please stop this." He's humiliated. Me. He had a deadline. He ignored it. "Mum, be nice." Me. I'm being fair. I put the phone face down on the table. A woman with a stroller buys jeans for 7. I throw in socks for $1. She thanks me and says, "My nephew will love these." It feels transactional in a way that's clean. No pleading, no trying to guess what someone really means. At 10:12, the air changes. You can feel when someone you know turns onto your street. I look up and see Julian's car take the corner too fast. He pulls up half on the curb behind the minivan and kills the engine. The door flies open. He's already red-faced before his feet hit the pavement. I put my hand on the plastic sleeve, steady as a paperweight, and take one conscious breath. The neighbours who are left go quiet without being asked. Noe pauses with Moose at the edge of the driveway. Monica steps closer to my side, like she's just browsing. Julian strides up the driveway, eyes skimming the tags, jaw tight. "What is this?" he says, voice raised like he wants the whole block to hear. I lift the sleeve to chest level so he can see the dates. "You didn't pick up by yesterday," I say. "Text notice sent?" I can hear how calm I sound, like I practiced, because I did. He looks past me at the empty spot where the mini fridge was, then back at me. You sold my stuff? I'm selling abandoned property to cover utilities and cleaning, I say. Just like I said. The hoodies rustle in a wind that wasn't there a minute ago. The clock on my stove through the kitchen window flips from 10:12 to 10:13. I keep my feet planted on my own concrete, hand steady on the sleeve. The rest can happen in daylight. He stops at the first table and jabs a finger at a tag, like it's an insult. You said 2 weeks. I said 2 weeks, and then I set the 15th, I say, holding up the plastic sleeve so he can see the line in the chat. Today is the 16th. He reaches for a box of clothes on the ground, and I rest my hand on it. No, I say, and tilt the sleeve so he can read. Here's where you called me greedy. Here's where I set the deadline. Here's where you read it. His eyes flick over the screenshots, then up to the neighbours without looking at them. He pushes air through his nose. You can't sell my stuff. I can sell abandoned property to cover a bill you stuck me with, I say. I gave notice in writing. Someone clears their throat behind him. The teenager with the skateboard has returned with a friend and taps the grey space heater. Is this one 10 too? Yes, I say, without taking my eyes off Julian. 10. The kid hands me a 10 and lopes off with the heater under one arm. I tuck the bill in the pouch and keep my fingers on the sleeve. My heart is knocking, but my voice stays level. Julian laughs, high and hard. You're unbelievable. Noe steps closer with Moose, the leash short. You need me to move the stand? He asks quietly, like we were mid-task. Please, I say. He and I lift the TV stand to the edge of the driveway so the next car can see it better. A woman in a red coat stops, looks at it and says, 20? 25, I say, matching Julian's volume with calm. It's solid. She counts out a 20 and a 5. I'll take it. Julian watches the cash cross hands, like I'm stealing it. This is petty. This is math, I say. He squints at the piles, tries a new angle. We were waiting on our deposit. You've been saying that since February, I say. You could have told me you weren't paying by the 10th. You didn't. He opens his mouth, closes it. A man in a ball cap gestures to the hoodies. How much for the whole stack? I look at the pile, do a quick scan. 40 for the lot, I say. 30, he counters. 35, I say. He shrugs. Deal. He peels off bills, stuffs the hoodies into a trash bag I hand him, and hoists it to his shoulder. Monica picks up the plastic sleeve like she's examining a menu, and turns a page so the treat as abandoned after 4:15 line faces outward. She doesn't say a word, but her presence feels like a quiet witness. A young couple with a stroller starts sorting through jeans and the kitchen odds I put out. 2 spatulas, a dented pot, a mismatched mug. 10 for the kitchen box, I offer. They nod gratefully and hand me a 10. I add 2 pairs of jeans for 7 each and toss in socks for $1. They beam like they won a game. Julian's shoulders are creeping up toward his ears. Mum is going to hear about this. Mum already has, I say. She asked me to be nice. This is me being fair. He takes a step toward the tables. I'll just take what's left. You can take your personal things, I say, calm. But the sale continues until the bill is covered. If you want to stop me, pay the $238 and the cleaning I had to buy. You can have a receipt. Noe shifts the TV stand money into my hand. I clip it under the index card and write totals as I go, speaking just loud enough for myself, and apparently the block. Fan, 15 but 20 paid. End table 10, lamp 8, heater 10, fridge and heater 20, hoodies 35, jeans 15, socks 1, kitchen 10. TV stand 25. I check the pouch and the card and do the math out loud because saying it anchors me. We're at 189. A guy in paint-specked pants who bought the fan earlier comes back and points at a milk crate with stray wires. 5 for the cords, he asks. 5, I say. He hands me a 10 and waves off change again. Keep it, I nod. Thank you. Another neighbour stops, eyes the last heap of t-shirts I didn't bother to fold. Whole pile, she asks. 20, I say. She counts out 2 10s and tucks the shirts into her tote. The teenager's friend returns for the mini laundry basket I hadn't tagged. $1? He asks. $1, I say. I look at the index card, add the new lines, and count the cash in the pouch with my fingertip. $2.51, I say, mostly to myself. I flip the card and write 3 more words at the bottom. Cleaning, dump fee. Julian throws his hands out. So what now? You feel good? I feel done, I say. I pull the manila folder from under the table and slide the electric bill confirmation behind the sleeve. Electric difference? $2.38. Cleaning supplies? $22. Lemon cleaner, bags, tags, tape. Dump fee? $12. That totals $2.72. No whistles under his breath, soft. I count out the cash on the table in neat stacks and name each one. Utilities, I say, tapping 100, another 100, a 20, a 10, an 8 in smaller bills that make me smile at the pettiness of exactness. Cleaning. I set down a 20 and 2 ones. Dump. A 10 and 2 ones. I look at what's left in my hand. 74 over, I say, meeting Julian's eyes. Do you want it by Cash App or a check? He blinks, thrown by the question. He recovers and spits. Keep your blood money. I shake my head once. Cash App or check? I repeat, steady as a metronome. He glares at the sleeve, the neighbours, the empty spots on the tables where his things used to be. He doesn't answer. I zip the pouch and set it on top of the manila folder, the calendar photo visible under the plastic. The driveway is quiet except for moose sneezing and a robin chirping, like nothing about this is special at all. I count the last bills under my thumb and say it out loud so it sticks. 74 over. I tuck the stack for the electric difference and the cleaning and the dump fee into the manila folder with the printouts. The leftover goes into the zip pouch. Julian stands there, arms folded. Keep it, he says, but it sounds like a dare more than a decision. I unlock my phone, open Cash App, and type $74 to his name. In the memo line, I write one word. Electric. I hit send. The green checkmark pops. I screenshot it and slide the phone back into the plastic sleeve behind the chat screenshots so the whole story lives together. Then I mute the family thread for a week. Sale's over, I say, not to him, but because the tables look done. He doesn't answer. He picks up a pair of shoes, a winter hat, and a backpack from the grass. Personal things, and stalks back to his car. The engine starts before his door is fully shut. He pulls away too fast, and Moose sneezes at the dust. Monica squeezes my forearm, not hard. You did fine, she says. Want help folding up the tables? Please, I say. No carries one. Monica takes the other, and I gather the leftover tags and plastic bags. The lamp is gone. The fan is gone. The little end table is already sitting in Monica's front window, like it always lived there. The driveway looks like normal concrete again. Inside, I set the manila folder on the dining table and breathe in. The house has its old sound back. Fridge tick, furnace whoosh, then quiet. I run the vacuum over the living room rug because the line marks calm me. Then I go downstairs. The basement is a picture of what I didn't sell. A bent wire hanger, a single sock, an empty detergent bottle with blue dried in the rim. The orange extension cord snakes from the breaker box across the floor. I unplug it, coil it with both hands, and drop it into a trash bag. I unplug the mini fridge outlet, habit, and then remember it's already gone. I pull the futon away from the wall and sweep. Dust bunnies roll like tiny tumbleweeds. The space where the slim heater sat looks clean, only by comparison. I fill a bucket with hot water and lemon cleaner until the smell grabs the back of my throat. I wipe the support beam, the top of the breaker box, the spots where hands always grab the railing. I scrub the futon frame and the lamp outlet. I wipe the washer lid and shake the lint trap into the trash. The plug-in freshener I never used goes into the wall. The lemon smell replaces the old hum that lived in my bones these past weeks. I open the small basement window a crack and leave it. At 2, I load the trunk with the trash bag and a broken crate and drive to the city transfer station. The guy at the gate says, 12, and I hand him a 10 and 2 ones. He gives me a small paper receipt, which I tape to a blank index card when I get home and slide into the plastic sleeve behind the bill. It feels petty in the exact way I want. Documented. Precise. Mom calls while I'm putting the tables back in Monica's garage. "You sent him money?" she says, confused like I've done the equation wrong. "I sent him the overage," I say. 74. Memo electric. She exhales into the phone. He's humiliated. "I know," I say, not unkind. "I love him. He doesn't get to live here for free." There's a long pause where I can hear the kitchen clock in her house. "I don't want you two to hate each other," she says. "We don't," I say. "We're just not living together." She makes a small sound, maybe agreement, maybe surrender. "Okay," she says. "Okay." After dinner, I sit at the dining table and open my notes app. I title a new note, House Guest Policy. Under it I type, Written start x end dates. Revisit date in calendar. No space heaters. No extra appliances without approval. Laundry finished by 10 p.m. Deposit up front, $200 minimum. Plus utilities up front. Estimate versus prior month difference. Clear consequences for missed deadlines, e.g., pickup date, items treated as abandoned after written notice. All agreements confirmed by text. I take a screenshot and text it to myself so it's somewhere I can't accidentally delete. In the morning at the clinic, between rescheduling 2 follow-ups and a referral that won't go through, I show it to Gwendolyn. She reads it like a discharge plan and nods. "That's clean," she says. "You can live with that." "I can live with that," I repeat. I print a copy on the clinic printer and add it to the manila folder because that's how I make things real. On the way home, I stop by the side of the house and look at the meter. The little LED blinks a lazy rhythm now, not the near-solid frantic of before. I take a photo anyway, more out of habit than need. The maple throws dappled light on the concrete. Somewhere a neighbour is grilling. It smells like pepper and summer trying to start early. That night, I crack the bedroom window. Cool air slips in. No washer, no dryer, no fan. Just the hallway clock, the occasional car at the stop sign, a bird that can't quite give up on daylight. The basement window is still open a finger width, and the lemon scent comes up clean and faint, like a house exhaling. The family thread sits under a tiny crossed-out bell icon on my phone. A new message count ticks up in red, and I let it. In a week, I'll unmute it. I'll answer Mom. I'll answer Julian if he texts something besides darts. But for now, it's quiet. I brush my teeth, set my alarm for 6 bawanged, and put the manila folder back in the drawer. The plastic sleeve glints under the dining room light before I close it. A stack of dates and amounts and printed out texts that add up to a boundary. I turn off the lamp. The house isn't booming with silence. It's normal. That feels like the prize I paid for and then paid myself back. Exactly $74 at a time.
Dad's kitchen smells like lemon cleaner because I make it smell that way. If I skip a week, it smells like old coffee and whatever candle Carmen has decided means home now. Usually vanilla lavender, strong enough to make the fridge taste sweet. My name is Fatima Hall. I'm 34. I work in medical billing at a clinic 15 minutes from Dad's house, and for the last 6 months I've been his ride, his pillbox, and the person who remembers which follow-up is where. Dad is Don, 66, a retired warehouse foreman. In April, he had his left knee replaced. In June, they repaired a hernia that showed up while he was learning to use the cane. He hates asking for help, but will accept it if you bring it without a speech. He's grateful, and he's easy to sway if it keeps the peace. Carmen moved in mid-June, right after the second surgery. She's 58, likes things labeled, and treats territory like it's a job. The first thing she unpacked was a crate of candles and a label maker. The spice rack looks like a tiny office supply aisle. Brian is my brother, 31, a freelance marketing guy who is always slammed, especially on days with appointments or heavy groceries. His texts are jokes and excuses. Rain check sis. Client meltdown LOL. Rowan is Carmen's son. He's 26, drops by when there's barbecue, and has asked me twice, what's the plan for Dad's old fishing boat? The boat's in a storage unit off Route 9. Been there since Dad stopped towing it last year. Nobody's plan, as far as I'm concerned. On Wednesday after work, I let myself in. Dad's in his recliner, TV low. The pill box is on the table with Monday, Wednesday mixed like confetti, water pills sitting on top of a pain med, a stray multivitamin in Tuesday's morning slot. Paris, the home health nurse, comes twice a week. She's been good about calling if Dad's off. I still reset the box every Sunday and check midweek. I wash my hands, dump the whole thing, and start over. Blue for morning, white for night. The tiny diuretic last, so it doesn't get lost. Dad watches me like I'm dealing cards. You don't have to do all that, Foddy, he says, voice soft. I know. I snap Wednesday shut. I also don't want Paris texting me at 9 p.m. again. The kitchen faucet drips. It's been doing that since the hernia. Last week, I put in new washers and a fresh aerator while Carmen told me about a chore chart she was making. Today it's taped to the fridge. Trash, floors, bath, groceries, meds, apps. Under each, one name. Fatima. Carmen breezes in with a bag of votives. I did a big tidy, she announces like a press release. Also, since you're here, guests rinse their plates and wipe the stove. Dad looks at the salt shaker like it might help. I count 3 breaths, wipe the stove, and say, I'm not a guest, Carmen. She smiles without teeth. You don't live here. I also don't bill by the hour, I say, keeping my voice even. But I'm keeping track. Her eyebrows jump. That's your personal choice. I rinse my plate. The lemon cleaner floats up again like a reminder. My job makes me careful with paper. People sign things without drama every day. HIPAA forms, consents, receipts. I dig in my work tote and pull out a single page I drafted last night. Simple. Dates, what I do, that I've paid out of pocket for co-pays and supplies, that I'm authorized to discuss appointments with providers, and that Dad intends to reimburse me when he can. Not a power move, just a record. Dad, I say, turning to him, I need you to sign this. It's a caregiver agreement. It says what I've been doing and that we all agree it's happening. He shifts, knee stiff. Now, I say. It keeps things clear. Carmen laughs, small and sharp. That's dramatic. Dad takes the pen anyway. He reads slower than he used to, lips moving a little. When he gets to the reimbursement part, his eyes flick to me, then to Carmen. He doesn't like choosing sides. He hates the idea that there are sides. Don, Carmen starts, I don't want misunderstandings, he says, eyes down. He signs. His D looks like it always has, hooked and heavy. He hands the pen back like it weighs something. Thank you, I say, and slide the paper into a plastic sleeve. I put it in a thin blue folder. I print a second copy later at home and tuck that in too. Sunday dinner is a thing here whether I like it or not. We pass the roast and pretend it's all normal. Lately, the air feels like it's about to crack. Before I leave, I take the trash, mop the sticky corner by the fridge, and line up the pill box. Carmen lights another candle. Vanilla tries to fight the lemon and loses. Dad dozes off with the TV remote on his belly. On my way out, I tape the chore chart back to the fridge. It was curling. My name sits under every line like a punchline. I put my hand on the cool metal for a second, then let go. Sunday, I bring the folder. We're going to stop pretending. Carmen slides a piece of paper toward my plate like it's dessert. The roast chicken is still steaming, lemon and thyme in the air, and there's her handwriting and a highlighter line, thick and neon. $600, underlined twice. Back rent, it says at the top, with this month's date. Sunday came fast. I left the clinic early enough to beat the football traffic. Folder in my tote. Green beans in a Pyrex because Dad likes them soft. He's at the head of the table, knee stiff, napkin folded into a perfect rectangle. Carmen set placemats, brought out her good candles. Vanilla Lavender tries to boss the room. Brian showed up 5 minutes late with a grocery cake and loud cologne. Kissed the air by Carmen's cheek like he's on TV. Guests contribute, Carmen says, point-tapping the paper with a manicured nail. It's just fair. Brian takes a sip of whatever's in his glass and smirks at the table. Dad rubs his forehead with his thumb, then stares at the salt shaker like it can read numbers. I pick up the paper. It's dated and itemized in Carmen's neat print. July, August, September. Rent, utilities, meals, total, $600. There's even a little note. Going forward, $200 month due on the 1st. I count 3 breaths. 1, 2, 3. The chicken skin cracks under the knife. The sound is louder than it should be. Is this, I say, keeping my voice steady, for the months I paid copays and supplies? Or is this something else? Carmen tilts her head like a manager in a meeting. Those were your personal choices, she says. This is about the household. My personal choices, I say. I set the paper down exactly where she slid it. Like buying Dad's compression socks. Like the $50 copay for Dr. Wu. Like the shower bench because the stool was a hazard. She shrugs. Again, choices. Guests contribute. I glance at Dad. He's got that small look, shoulders rounded, the old foreman tucked away. He reaches for the salt, doesn't use it, puts it back. Brian leans back in his chair like this is a show. Come on, Fadi, Brian says lightly. Don't make it a whole thing. We all chip in. When? I ask him. Do you chip in? He grins into his water and doesn't answer. The kitchen clock ticks. Paris's last voicemail dings in my head. She called Friday to confirm Dad's Monday. I called back. We're fine on that front. I brought the folder because I didn't want to do this in the air. I set my fork down, wipe my fingers, and pull the blue folder out of my tote. It thunks soft against the wood. I flip it open. The tabs show because I made tabs. Meds, receipts, log, agreement. Carmen's smile narrows. What is that? Paper, I say. Since we're talking about fairness. Dad clears his throat. Let's just eat first, he says, almost a whisper. We can eat, I say, and we can be clear. It doesn't have to be a fight. Carmen leans forward a little. There's no fight. There's just expectations. I agree, I say. I expect the same. Brian spears a piece of dark meat and licks his fingers. You're being intense, he says around a mouthful, like we're 10 again, and I took the last cookie. I slide the top page a half inch so the title shows. Caregiver Agreement. Dad's signature is right there. The hooked D, dated last month. I don't pull the whole thing out yet. I'm not doing a show and tell. I'm staking the ground. I'm not a guest, I say, looking at Carmen, then at my brother, then at Dad. I've been covering gaps. Carmen exhales through her nose. No one said you're not helpful, Fatima. But you don't live here. Rent exists. Utilities exist. You can't just, she makes a vague swirl in the air, swoop in and run things and not contribute. I nod. Okay, then let's talk about what contribution looks like, because I have numbers. Brian chuckles. She brought spreadsheets to dinner. It's a folder, I say, and it's our reality. Dad's hand is on the table, knuckles pale. He looks tired. He always looks a little tired now, but this is the kind that sits behind his eyes. He reaches for the gravy, then puts it down unopened. I don't want to fight, he says again, to the table, to the salt, to no one. No one's fighting, I say. We're just not pretending. Carmen nudges the $600 paper closer to me again with 2 fingers. You can pay me through Zelle, she says. We can call July-September a wash if you start on time next month. I press my thumb to the edge of my folder so I don't say something I'll regret. I'm not paying a bill that calls me a guest in my father's house, I say, and I'm definitely not paying it to you. Her face flattens. Don lives here. I live here. Household expenses go through me. Household care goes through me, I say, and it's not a threat. It's a fact. And I brought documentation. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it correctly. Brian whistles a little, fake impressed. Here we go, he says. I slide my plate back, open the folder fully, and lay the first page along the runner, the blue ink bright under the kitchen light. Dad looks at it, then at me. The lemon and thyme are still in the air. The vanilla candle keeps burning. I take another breath and keep my voice even. Let's start with what's already been done, I say. Then we can talk about what comes next. I slide the first page out so the title shows, then the next. Care log on top, dates and notes in my tidy print. Under that, the taped receipts, little crooked squares that don't look like much until they line up. July 12th, I read, tapping the margin. Dr. Wu follow-up, $50 copay. August 3rd, shower bench, $89.99. Septees 2, compression socks, $32. Gas to PT, I estimate not charging, just flagged. I keep my voice even. This goes back 2 years, not just since April. Carmen's mouth twists. 2 years, she says, like I claimed a decade. Don was fine. Mostly, I say. That's when things started. The first imaging, the cane. The bills didn't start with you. Brian cranes his neck and pretends to squint. How much is the grand total, accountant? I slide the last sheet into view. I used a blue pen and rounded to the quarter because that's how my brain works. $1,180, I say. Documented. That's not counting time, just out of pocket. Dad looks at the paper like it might bite. His hand is on his napkin, smoothing it flat again and again. You shouldn't have had to do that, he says softly. I did it because it needed doing, I say. But I'm not a guest in this story. Carmen laughs once. Quick. You can't waive receipts and call it rent. I'm not, I say. I'm calling it what it is. Care. And I got it in writing last month because I don't like confusion. I tap the caregiver agreement with Dad's hooked D. You signed this, Dad. It says I'm providing care, that I can talk to providers, and that you intend to reimburse me when you can. Carmen's eyes cut to his. You signed that without me here? He shrugs, small. She asked. I didn't want misunderstandings. I don't look away from Carmen when I say, and because I don't like things disappearing, I secured the boat. Brian's smirk slips. What? I reach into the folder pocket and put a small silver key beside the papers. It makes the tiniest clink. Storage unit. I changed the lock last week. Dad and I signed a simple reimbursement note and a security agreement when we did the caregiver form. I filed a lien with the state on the boat title. I keep it plain. That means it can't be transferred or gifted until I'm paid what I'm owed. It's not up for anyone's son to plan around. Carmen's face hardens into something flat. You did what? I perfected it. It's on the title. I don't over-explain because I don't need to. If the boat gets sold someday, my documented costs come out first. If it doesn't, nothing changes except no surprises. Dad looks both relieved and spooked. He hates conflict. He also hates feeling like he's lost track. Fatima, he says, voice careful, we could have talked more. We tried, I say, not sharp, just true. This keeps us honest. Brian shifts in his chair like it's suddenly uncomfortable. Rowan is going to lose it, he mutters. Not my problem, I say. My problem is that I'm doing everything and getting billed like a stranger. Carmen plants her hand on the $600 printout. You still owe for the house. No, I say, and I let the no sit there. Starting tonight, I'm off the clock. If you want me here, we use an expense-splitting app for every purchase, and we take 2 days each. You, Brian, me. Sunday is outside help or nobody. If that doesn't work for you, hire help for the gaps. There are agencies. Or ask one of your friends to sit with him while you work. Dad swallows, Adam's apple bobbing. 2 days each, he repeats like he's tasting it. It's fair, I say, and it gets me out of being the mop. Carmen folds her arms. You can't just quit. I'm not quitting, I say. I'm setting terms. Brian raises his glass like a toast. Terms. Fancy. I close the folder, slip the key back into my palm, then think better of it and leave it next to the papers. That stays, I say. It's labeled. The storage gate code is in my phone. If anyone needs access, I go with you. No exceptions. Carmen's eyebrows go up. You don't get to police. I get to protect Dad's assets until we're square, I say. And I will. The room goes quiet except for the clock. The roast is losing heat. The candle tunnels in on itself. I reach into my tote, pull out a sticky note and a pen. I write my number, the same number I've had forever, and in block letters under it, only for appointments. I stick it to the edge of the folder so it hangs over the table like a flag. I push my chair back. The legs scuff the tile. Text me appointment dates and times, I say. Put purchases in the app once we set it up, and I'll approve my share on my days. Otherwise, handle it. Dad's fingers twitch on the napkin. Fatih, he says, small. I love you, I say, meeting his eyes so he knows that part isn't conditional. Call me for appointments. Carmen makes a sound. Somewhere between a scoff and a scoff she swallowed. Brian looks down at his phone, suddenly busy. I pick up my tote and my Pyrex. The lemon and thyme are still there, but now they smell far away. At the doorway, I look back once. The blue folder sits in the center of the table, my sticky note bright and impossible to ignore. I leave before anyone can follow me, keys cool in my fist, and get in my car. I start it, breathe, and let the house figure out dinner without me. Monday morning starts with a group text that wasn't a group until Carmen added me. Carmen, house stuff. Carmen, please confirm payment of $600 back rent by Wednesday. Going forward $200 on the 1st. Thanks. Brian, I can swing by after my 2 p.m., Dad. We good on leftovers? Brian, Lowell Carmen. You're really doing the charts, huh? I stare at the screen, drink my coffee, and hit decline on the Zelle request that comes through with back rent in the memo. It pings red, then disappears. Paris calls at 9:10. Hey, Fatima, I'm at your dad's. He's not answering the door. I called his cell, no pickup. I'm trying again in 10. I'm not there, I say. I left my number for appointments. I have it, she says gently. This was on the calendar from last week. I'll swing back later if I can. 10 minutes later, she texts, he opened the door. He thought I was tomorrow. Pillbox is off. He seemed mixed up about the water pills. We talked safe dosing. He was embarrassed. I stand at my sink and watch a squirrel fall off the fence and pop back up like nothing happened. The urge to grab my keys sits heavy in my hand. I take a breath and don't move. At lunch, Carmen calls twice. No voicemail either time. I put my phone face down and finish my yogurt at my desk, then schedule auto pay on 2 of my own bills because my brain needs to do something helpful that isn't theirs. By Tuesday night, there's a new text. Brian. I'll grab him for PT tomorrow. Chill, fam. I don't reply. I fold laundry, change my sheets, and set my alarm for 6:30. I sleep until 7:45 without the panic that has lived in my chest since April. I'm late to nothing. The quiet in my apartment feels like the sound when a fridge stops humming. At 10:15, I get a text from a number I don't have saved. Cliff? Hey, it's Cliff from 2 houses down from your dad. Carmen said you're stepping back. Don needed a ride to his knee place. I took him. 40 cash is fine. Just FYI, I call him because that deserves a voice. Cliff, thank you. No problem, he says. I can hear wind, like he's walking. He was ready early, then forgot his check-in card, then remembered he doesn't need one anymore. He was okay. We got there and back. He walked slow. I helped with the steps. Thank you, I say again. I'll pay you through whatever app you like if that helps. Or cash next time I see you. Nah. He gave me 40, he says. I told him 20 was fine, but he insisted. I'm not going to argue with a man in a brace. I swallow. Okay. Thank you for not arguing. Hey, he says, a little softer. Boundaries are good. I've seen things. We hang up. I put his number in my phone and label it Cliff Next Door. I text Paris to ask how Dad seemed otherwise. She replies, Pride's bruised. He needed a nudge on the afternoon dose. I'll see him Friday. Wednesday afternoon, Carmen tries again. Carmen, you can't decline rent and keep acting like. Carmen, you have to be reasonable. I don't respond. At 4:22, she writes, What is the code for the storage gate? I stare at that for a long time. I put my phone back down. At 5:03, the storage facility app pings. Gate access attempt failed. Wrong pin entered. 5:01 p.m. I scroll to the activity log. No unit door opens. The lock shows no activity at all. The little icon next to my unit number is a green circle. Secure. I exhale. I don't reply to Carmen's gate text. She doesn't follow up. Dad calls at 6:30. I let it go to voicemail because I'm in line at the grocery store, and I told myself I'd only pick up for appointments. He leaves one. Hey, Fadi, I saw Paris. We're good. I'm fine. Love you. He sounds tired, but not breathless, which is my private measurement of okay. Brian posts an Instagram story of a pint glass sweating on a patio, captioned Client Debrief with a laughing emoji. The timestamp sits on top of the microwave burrito on Dad's counter in the corner of the frame. I hate that I know Dad's counter. I swipe away and don't text him. That night, I wash my own dishes and let them dry on the rack. No lemon cleaner. My place smells like the tomatoes I roasted on Sunday and the hand soap I like because it smells like rain. I watch one episode of a show without checking my phone. Around 10, I set my alarm for 6:30 and then, on purpose, don't set a second one. I fall asleep with the window cracked and wake up with light in the room and no knot in my stomach. Thursday, Carmen sends a screenshot of a pharmacy receipt with $38.76, circled, and a caption, You're half. I don't approve anything I didn't discuss. I write back, Use the app when we set it up. My days are off this week. She replies with a thumbs down emoji. Paris texts mid-afternoon. I put Friday at 11 on the calendar with your dad. You don't need to come unless you want to. I type thanks and then delete it and type thanks for letting me know. At 8, the storage app pings again. Someone is at the gate. This time the PIN is correct. Mine, because I have the only one. It's me. I drive by after dinner, circle the row, see the silver disc lock exactly where I left it. I don't get out. I just look, then go home. Carmen calls once more around 9. No voicemail. I sit on my couch and feel the shape of my life without a chore chart taping me to someone else's fridge. The guilt threads through the quiet, but it's thinner than it was. I let it be. The unknown number pops up while I'm sorting my mail on the counter. Unknown. Hey, this is Rowan, Carmen's son. Unknown. Boat is family property. Can you drop the key with my mom? We're going to get it seaworthy before the holidays. I stare at the text until the screen dims. Then I take a picture of the lien confirmation on my dining table, the state seal, my name as secured party, the hull number, and the summary page from my folder with the $1,080 total. I crop and send. Me. The boat title shows a lien in my name for documented care costs. It can't be transferred or gotten seaworthy without clearing that first. The dots bounce. Then Rowan. LOL, you can't put a lien on a family thing. Rowan, my mom said you left a key here anyway. There are 2 keys. Gate requires my PIN. Title won't move without my release. You can't go around it. Rowan, we'll see. Me. DMV won't. He doesn't reply. 2 minutes later, Carmen's calling. I let it ring. It pops back immediately as a group call. Carmen, plus Don. I hit decline and type, fingers steady. Me. I'll speak to Dad alone. Not on a 3-way. She doesn't answer. 10 minutes later, I get 2 voicemails from Dad. The first is short. Hey, Fatih. Carmen said, just call me when you can. The second, a minute after. It doesn't have to be a big, just talk to me. Love you. His voice wobbles on the last word. I call him back and keep it simple. Porch tomorrow at 6. Just a talk. No chores. He exhales, like I handed him something heavy and simple at the same time. Okay, he says. Porch. At 5:40, Paris texts. If the pillbox isn't organized by Friday, I have to note non-compliance. He mixed doses again today. That lands like a little stone in my stomach. I type back, I'll address it with him tomorrow. Thanks for the heads up. Thursday night, Brian posts a boomerang of clinking pint glasses, captioned Happy Hour Debrief. In the corner, I catch Dad's counter again. Another burrito, different day, same plate. I put my phone down. The point of stepping back is to let the gaps show up where they belong. It still feels like I'm watching someone leave the fridge door open. At 8:20, Rowan tries again. Rowan, I'll just take Don to DMV. You won't be there to block it. Relax. Me. The record shows a secured party. Even standing at the counter, they'll stop the transfer. Don doesn't need that hassle. Rowan, you're doing too much. It's a boat. Me. It's Dad's asset. We'll handle it with him. My phone lights up with another incoming group call from Carmen. I don't answer. I text her instead. Stop adding Dad to calls. I meet him tomorrow at 6. Porch. She sends back a single period, then nothing. Friday at 11, Paris texts. Saw him. He said his morning doses, but not afternoon. He said he's meeting you later. Please reinforce. I'm required to document. Got it, I reply. I put a reminder on my calendar. Talk pillbox plan. Not do it. Plan it. At lunch, I pick up 2 iced teas from the deli near the clinic and drive the long way past the storage facility. The app doesn't ping. The dust on the row is undisturbed. The disc lock sits where I left it, dull and obedient. I keep driving. At 5:55, I pull up to Dad's. The porch light is already on, though the sun's still working. He's in the camp chair we used last summer for fireworks, slippers dusty, a flannel over his tea. There's a folded piece of paper on the little table between us, the $600 printout, now with a coffee ring. I didn't ask her to do this, he says, before I even sit. I know, I say. I slide one tea toward him. I'm not paying it. He nods, eyes on the street. Cars cut around the corner too fast. The neighbor's dog barks like it forgot how to stop. I don't like all the tension, he says finally. Feels like when the line foreman and the floor boss would get into it, and I was just trying to ship pallets. It's your house, I say. You can set the tone, and you can set the plan so it's not chaos. He rubs his knee absently, the brace creaking a little. Paris said non-compliance. She texted me too, I say. We need the pillbox set right, but I'm not doing it alone anymore. I pull a small notebook from my bag, not the blue folder. Here's what I propose. We put the pillbox set up on the schedule the same way we put trash and groceries. 2 days each for me, Brian, and Carmen. Outside help on Sundays. Expenses go in an app. If it's not in the app and not approved, we don't buy it, or we don't reimburse it. That way Paris isn't chasing us and you're not embarrassed at the door. He watches my mouth like I'm reading him instructions. They're going to hate that. They can hate it, I say. It'll still be fair. He takes a sip of the tea and makes a face. Too sweet. I got one unsweet, I say, and we swap without talking about it. He taps the $600 paper with the one finger. She called you a guest. I know, I say. I'm not. He nods again. The porch light hums. A car horn blares 2 blocks away. He blinks slow. Okay, he says, like he's choosing to lift the heavy thing. Bring what I need to sign. Sunday, not tonight. He looks at the door, then away. I want to try telling them myself. I'll give you until Sunday, I say. Then I'm bringing pens. We sit for a minute without filling it. He looks down at his hand, then up at me. Fati? Yeah. I need you, he says, quiet and small. I'm here, I say. Just not for everything. His mouth twitches like a smile that got halfway. We talk about the porch chairs needing paint when it warms up. Nothing urgent. I leave without going inside. The vanilla candle is probably lit. The pillbox is probably wrong. I get in my car and put Sunday on my calendar in blue, the color I use when I mean it. Saturday, the phone rings at dusk. Dad's name fills the screen. I let it buzz once before I pick up. Fati, he says, breath a little thin. I can't remember if I took the afternoon ones. The small water pill. The box is, I messed it up. I'm coming to the porch, I say. Give me 10 minutes. Don't take anything until we talk. I grab my keys and the small notebook I used Friday. No blue folder. The sky is that gray blue that makes porches look like stage sets. He's already out front when I pull up. Slippers dusty, the porch light humming though it's not fully dark. The pill box sits on the little table like a puzzle from a doctor's waiting room. 2 lids half open, 1 tiny white diuretic sitting on top like a bead. I tried, he says. Paris did the morning with me. After lunch I took a nap and then I didn't. I don't know. It's okay, I say. I sit and pull the box toward me but leave it on his side of the table. Let's slow it down. He leans forward, elbows on his knees. Close up, he looks more tired than he sounded, skin sallow in the porch light. I keep my hands in my lap. Which one did you for sure take this afternoon? I ask. The big white one, he says. For pain, I think. And maybe the water. I don't know. Okay, I say. We're not guessing. I put my phone on speaker and scroll to Paris. She picks up on the second ring. Hey, Fatima. I'm with my dad on the porch, I say. He's unsure if he took his afternoon meds. 1 diuretic might be unaccounted for. Pain med he thinks he took. Paris's voice goes calm and practical. Don, it's Paris. How late is it? 6:30, he says, small. For the water pill, if you're unsure, don't double, she says. Wait until tomorrow morning as usual. Too late in the day and you'll be up all night. For pain, if you think you took it, don't take another. If pain kicks up, call me and we'll plan a safe dose later. Mark today as uncertain. Do you have a pen? I hand him one. He writes, in the Friday PM square with slow, careful strokes. Thanks, Paris, I say. Of course, she says. And, Fatima, the box needs a consistent routine. Whoever's on duty should set it in front of him, not around him. I have to chart noncompliance if this keeps happening. I know, I say. We're putting a schedule in place tomorrow. After we hang up, Dad stares at the little question mark like it's a grade he doesn't like. He blows out a breath. I hate this, he says. I used to run a crew of 20. Now I can't keep track of a kernel of rice. You're recovering, I say. And you're not a crew of 1. That's the point. He sits back and rubs his chest once. Slow. Friday, he says. Voice low. I said I'd talk to them. I've been letting things slide because I'm scared. It feels like if I push, people leave. I get small. I don't want to be alone in my house. I hear you, I say. Being scared and being used are not the same thing. He makes a sound that's almost a laugh and not nice. Feels the same in the moment. I open the notebook to the page from last night and turn it toward him. The lines are simple. Names next to days. Boxes for who does what. This is what I'm asking you to put your name to tomorrow, I say. Mondays and Thursdays, Carmen. Tuesdays and Saturday mornings, Brian. Wednesdays and Fridays, me. Sundays are nobody. Outside help if needed. Cliff or an agency. Pillbox gets set on each person's days while you're sitting at the table. All expenses go in the app. If it's not in there and approved, it doesn't get bought or reimbursed. No more surprise receipts. No more three-way calls. He reads it, tracing each line with his finger like he's following a map. They'll say it's too much. It's less than I've been doing, I say. It's the minimum. He nods slowly. A car turns the corner too fast and the porch light hums louder, or maybe that's just us hearing it. He looks at the pillbox again, then at me. I don't want to lose you, he says, voice cracked open. You won't, I say. I'm here. I'm just not doing all of it, all the time. He reaches across the little table and his hand hovers up for a second, like he's not sure if he's allowed. I put mine out. His palm is warm and dry. He squeezes, gentle like he's scared of my bones. I need you, he says, whisper flat. It's the same words as last night, but it lands different with the question mark in the Friday square. I know, I say. You also need a plan. He lets go and sits back. Tomorrow, he says, like he's practicing the sound. Tomorrow I'll say it. Sign it. Bring your pen, I say. I'll bring mine. We sit a while. I don't touch the pillbox, but I walk him through the rest of the weekend. He'll take his morning meds with breakfast, skip any makeup tonight, and call Paris if the pain breaks through. He repeats it back to me, eyes on the box, then closes each lid with slow clicks like he's sealing a deal. On my way to the car, my phone buzzes. The storage app shows a gate attempt at 5:58 with the wrong PIN. No access. I don't mention it. Not tonight. At home, I print the schedule clean and a fresh copy of the caregiver agreement he already signed. This time with the schedule attached. I check the PIN in my tote. It writes in blue. Sunday gets a second star on my calendar. Then I turn off my porch light and let my apartment be quiet on purpose. Sunday, I bring my pen, the printed schedule, and a clean copy of the caregiver agreement with the schedule stapled to it. I also bring rolls and a salad because I know how to disarm a table. Carmen has the placemats out and the vanilla candle lit like a mascot. Brian shows up with a six-pack and no opener, then leaves to borrow one from Cliff. Dad sits at the head, knee stiff, napkin folded into a square he keeps moving around. The blue folder is in my tote, but I set the schedule on the table so there's no way to miss it. We eat 3 polite bites. The clock ticks. Dad clears his throat and keeps his eyes on his plate. I'm not losing my daughter over chores, he says. He reaches for the paper with 2 fingers like it might burn him and slides it toward himself. We're doing a schedule. We're doing the app. Or we hire help. Carmen blinks twice, smile pinned in place. Don, he holds up a hand, palm down. It's not hard, just enough. No, he says, and I can hear the foreman. Enough confusion. Mondays and Thursdays, Carmen. Tuesdays and Saturday mornings, Brian. Wednesdays and Fridays, Fatima. Sundays, nobody. If we need someone, we pay for it. Brian laughs like it's a joke. Saturday morning, I got client calls. You have a phone, Dad says. Bring it. Or trade with someone and put it on the schedule. But not nothing. Carmen inhales. This is a lot. It's less than what I've been doing, I say, because he said I didn't have to talk and I don't want to, but I'm not going to let it slide. And, Dad says, nodding at the paper, expenses go in the app. If it's not in there and not agreed, I'm not paying it. Back rent, he gestures toward the coffee ring printout on the counter, is not a thing. Carmen's lips pinch. Brian's eyes go to his phone and then away like it's interesting. Dad picks up my pen. His D-hook's heavy, same as last time. He signs the bottom of the schedule and the attached agreement. I sign on the caregiver line again, dated. I slide the paper toward Carmen and Brian. They don't touch the pen. We'll text the app link right after dinner, I say. It's simple. You take a photo of the receipt. We all see it. If we agree, we split. If we don't, it sits there. No more mystery charges. Fine, Carmen says, flat. We finish eating without talking about it more. After we clear the table, Dad leans back and looks at me. Let's list the boat, he says, like he's ordering coffee. I nod. We drive to the storage unit in my car. The late sun hits the rows and turns the dust gold. I punch my pin and the gate slides open. The disc lock looks the way it did last time, dull and exactly where I left it. We roll up the door and there it is. Dad's old aluminum fishing boat. Seats a little cracked, outboard under a tarp, trailer tires low but not flat. I take photos. Bow, stern, the motor with the model plate visible, trailer hitch, the little cracked seat Dad used to sit on while tying lures. I post to Marketplace and Craigslist. 14 aluminum fishing boat. Older but solid. Outboard needs a tune-up. Trailer included. Clear title with lien release. Provided at sale. $2,400 OBO. Cash only. Must tow. We get 6 lowball messages in 10 minutes and 1 serious one. Can see today. Cash. Evan. Profile shows a shop logo and a picture of a small base. I ask when. He says, in an hour. I'll bring a compressor for the tires. I send the address. While we wait, I print the lien release from my email on my phone at the facility's office. 50 cents a page, and the manager doesn't ask questions. Dad sits on the edge of the unit in the shade, looking at the boat like it's a family album. Evan shows up in a pickup with a friend and a portable compressor. He walks around the boat, knocks the hull with his knuckles, checks the trailer lights with a battery pack he brought. He offers $2,000 cash. It's fair, quick, clean. Dad looks at me. I nod. We count the bills on the flat of the trailer, make a bill of sale with both our names and the hull number, sign the title, and the lien release. Evan airs the tires, hooks the trailer, straps the boat, thanks Dad, and drives out slow. The slot where the boat was looks suddenly huge. In the car, I pull Watorn. $80 from the stack and hold it up. This clears my documented costs, I say. I'll text a photo of the receipt to the app when we set it up. Dad nods and watches my hands like I'm doing a magic trick. I put the remaining $820 in an envelope. We stop at his bank and deposit it into the checking account he uses for meds. He shows his ID, signs, and the teller slides a receipt across. I take a photo. Paper is how we don't forget. Back at the house, the parking strip is empty where Evan's truck was, and the vanilla candle is still sputtering on the counter. Rowan's car pulls up as we walk in. He sees the empty driveway where he probably imagined a trailer, then spots me. He paces the length of the driveway, hands on his hips, then stops and stares. "You sold it?" he says to the air, to his shoes, to me. "Dad sold it," I say. "We cleared the lien. Money went to care." Rowan exhales hard through his nose, turns in a tight circle like a frustrated dog, then gets in his car and leaves without looking at me. Carmen's mouth becomes a straight line you could measure. Brian says nothing, which is new and nice. Dad puts his hand on the back of a chair, steadying himself. "Thank you," he says. He's looking at me, not past me, and he says it out loud, in front of everyone. It feels like a door closing on an old hallway. I nod once. Then I put my Sunday back where it belongs. The new rhythm isn't perfect, but it exists. Monday morning, a link hits the group text. Me. "Here's the app. Add receipts. If it's not in here and not approved, it doesn't get bought or reimbursed." Carmen joins. Brian joins. The first entries pop up like little test balloons. Carmen, dish soap 3,790. Paper towels 649. Brian, gas to PT $8. Me, approved. Then, pharmacy copay $18. Dad's name is on the receipt. I tag it Med Fund and mark it from Dad's account. Carmen doesn't argue. The $820 sits there as a line at the top with a note. Medication fund, balance $820. We all can see it. None of us can pretend it isn't there. Wednesday is my day. I bring chicken thighs and rice and the little notebook because that's how I stay steady. The kitchen smells like whatever was cooked last, not like a candle trying to sell a mood. Dad is at the table, pill box open and empty, waiting like a plate before dinner. I set each pill with him sitting there. Blue in the morning, white at night, the diuretic last, and make him repeat back the times. He does. He cracks a joke about tiny beans when I hold the water pill up by accident. We eat, and I wipe the table but don't scour the stove. I leave my dishes in the rack to dry on their own. When I take the trash out, it's because it's my box on the schedule, not because I can't stand it. Thursday afternoon, Paris texts, "Pill box looks correct, thank you." Noting compliance, I show Dad the message. He smiles with only one side of his mouth, but it's there. Friday, Carmen uploads a photo of a receipt for a bath mat with suction cups for the shower safety and tags it to the shared column. It's $14.99. I approve. Later, she sends a picture of the pill box with the lids closed and the label tape she loves stuck to the edge. TSU PM done. If she needs to control something, it may as well be the checking off of boxes. Saturday morning, Brian arrives in a hoodie with a bag of breakfast sandwiches. He texts the group a photo of Dad at the table with a coffee and a goofy thumbs up and a caption, "Saturday shift accomplished." The app pings, "Egg sandwiches, 9,026. I approve. No one mentions happy hour. We hire Cliff for a midday drive the next week when Dad's PT gets moved. I text him through the app and set $40 as the rate because we all agreed that on the porch. He shows up 5 minutes early, helps Dad down the steps, and texts me a photo when they're back. Dad's knee brace peeking out under his shorts, the mail in his hand, both of them squinting at the sun. I tap paid with a small satisfaction I don't perform for anyone. The storage unit is empty now. I go by on my lunch break, close it out in the office, and return the keys I kept in my tote. The manager prints me a receipt and staples a tiny business card to it. I take a photo for the folder and toss the card in the little dish by my door when I get home. The app doesn't get a line for that. Not everything does. On a Tuesday, Carmen tries a small test. She adds back rent July Sep to the app with a description that only says household. It sits there like a dare. Dad comments from his profile. Not approved, not applicable. The entry goes gray and disappears. No one mentions it out loud. The coffee ring printout has vanished from the counter. I don't ask where it went. Dad jokes more. On the porch, he points at a patch of sky and tells me about the time he and his brother got caught in a summer storm on a lake and had to use a bucket because the bilge failed. He laughs all the way through it and only coughs once. He admits he likes the porch again. When I stand to go on my nights, he doesn't look like I took oxygen out of the room. He just says, "Text me when you get home." And I do. The nurse texts fewer reminders. "Pillbox has been on point," Paris writes one Friday. "Good work, team." I show Dad, and he shrugs like it's nothing, but he folds the napkin into a tidy square and sets it to the side like a trophy. Brian still misses a slot here and there. He texts me at 8:10 one night. "Running late. Can you switch?" I reply with a screenshot of the schedule and "Not tonight. Trade with Carmen on the app." He does. Carmen accepts with a thumbs up. They both post a photo of the pillbox after, almost a race to prove it's done. Sundays are quiet again. The first one after the boat, I sit at my own kitchen table with a mug that sweats a little in the warmth of the room. My phone is on the counter, face up, not vibrating. The only ping is a grocery store promotion I didn't ask for. I open my window and hear someone's wind chimes and a car door shutting 3 buildings down. I make eggs. No one asked me to pick up milk on my way. No group call rings without warning. After lunch that day, Dad texts me a photo of the porch. 2 chairs, the little table between them, the schedule pinned to the corkboard by the door with a magnet shaped like a fish. "See you Wednesday," he writes. I type back a heart and then delete it and write, "See you Wednesday," because that's how we're doing it now. I keep the blue folder in my tote, not because I expect to need it, but because paper kept us honest when our words didn't. The caregiver agreement sits behind the schedule, both signed, both smudged from hands. The boat is gone, and in its place is a line in the app that keeps shrinking and refilling. Med Fund, balance $604, then $588, then $570, then back up when the insurance reimbursement hits, and we move a little into it. Ordinary math, real life. On a Wednesday, Dad stands up from the table without the little grunt he's been doing since April. "It's progress," he says, grinning, and I feel it like a light going on in a room I forgot had a switch. I rinse my plate, wipe the stove, set the pillbox, and kiss the air by his cheek like I'm on TV. Then I go home. I don't mop the floor. I don't stay to reshelve the spices. I keep my Sundays, and the rest of the week keeps itself. "We'll be out in 2 weeks tops," Levi said, and we clink coffee mugs like a contract. My name is Evelyn. I'm 31, and I work as a claims analyst at Ridgeview Mutual. I live on the 3rd floor of Maple Court Apartments, a 12-unit brick building on the east side of town. My place is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, the kind of apartment where you learn to stack things neatly or trip over them. I've been here 3 years. The spare room is usually my half office, half guest space. On October the 1st, it became my brother's landing pad. Levi is 29, all shoulders and apologies, and he means well until something inconvenient comes up. Caitlin, my sister-in-law, is 28 and looks like she could host a cooking show out of a shoebox. She walked in rolling a suitcase that matched her manicure and said, "Ev, this neighborhood is adorable, like I designed the cracked sidewalks on purpose." She touched the knife block. "These are great knives." She turned in a slow circle. "I love your cozy minimalist vibe," which is a nice way to say small when your luggage is the size of my coffee table. They were between leases, which happens. Their old lease ended September 30th, and the place they were eyeing wasn't ready. Someone messed up the flooring order, or that's what Caitlin said. 2 weeks, Levi repeated, tapping the paper calendar I keep by the fridge. I uncapped a red dry erase marker and wrote Oct Esther 1, Oct 14, L and K. I drew a smiley face because humor keeps me from grinding my teeth. I pointed out their shelf in the fridge, middle left, next to the Greek yogurt I actually like, and gave them the spare set of keys from the bowl by the door. "Thank you," Levi said into my hair when he hugged me. He still calls me Evie if he wants something. "We'll be out of your hair by the 14th. Promise." "Welcome," I said, because I'm a responsible, even-tempered person who tries to do things the right way. I also said, only one pair of shoes each by the door, because I also like to see the floor. That night, Mom called. Faith is 58, big on check-ins and bigger on family. "You're a good sister," she said without hello. "They just need a soft place to land." "I know," I said, leaning against my oven and watching steam fog my mug. 2 weeks, tops. I said it out loud because it sounded sturdy that way. My lease here is month to month with 30 days notice. Cameron, my landlord, is fair and by the book. He sends notices on time, he answers emails, he hires actual professionals. I've never had a problem, and I don't create them. My utilities are in my name: electric, water, internet. On a normal month, my power runs about $76, water around $34. I don't say those numbers to most people. I know them because I write them down on a sticky note and put it under a little lemon magnet on my fridge. It keeps me honest. The first few days went fine. Levi carried my old printer into the closet without being asked and took the trash out twice. Caitlin set out a small candle and asked, "Is this okay?" before lighting it. She offered to make pasta and used the good pot like it had been waiting for her. She also moved my coffee tin to a lower shelf to make mornings easier. I moved it back the next day because my mornings were already fine. "You'll love it this way," she said, cheerful, rearranging my baking sheets so they stood on edge like files. "So efficient." I showed them where the laundry room was in the basement and how the dryer needs 2 extra quarters to actually dry. I labeled a spot on the pantry with painter's tape. Levi and Caitlin, snacks. I put extra towels on their bed and a basket for toiletries. I made it easy so it would be easy to leave. That was the plan. At work, I told Grace, my friend, same age, the one who texts me memes when I get too serious, that I was doing the noble sister thing. 2 weeks, I said on my lunch break, chewing a carrot stick that tasted like homework. "Get it in writing," she joked. I lifted my coffee cup like a toast. "We clinked mugs," I told her, and we both laughed. By the end of week 1, the hallway had gained 2 extra coats and a yoga mat. A box of dishes I didn't recognize sat by the dining table until we figure out where to put them. I turned the calendar so the dates faced out again. On day 12, I came home and the calendar was flipped to the wall. "The whiteboard was reflecting light in my video call," Caitlin said, breezy, slicing an apple with my paring knife. "It was blinding." "Right," I said, and turned it back, because dates aren't a suggestion if you're the one paying rent. I told myself I was being kind, not foolish. That's the line I kept repeating when I put my coffee back in its spot the next morning and found it moved again the next day. By week 3, I came home to a pantry I didn't recognize. The first thing I noticed was the cumin. It was lined up with coriander and curry powder like little soldiers, labels facing out, in a place I've never kept spices. The second thing was my coffee tin, wedged behind a canister of steel-cut oats I don't buy. "Hey!" Caitlin popped her head around the pantry door like she'd been waiting for me to catch up. "Surprise reset. You'll love it this way. So efficient." She turned the narrow pantry into a cooking show. Canned beans stacked in perfect towers, lentils in clear jars with handwritten labels, pasta sorted by shape. My peanut butter had migrated to the top shelf, apparently now a display item. The tape I'd used to mark Levi and Caitlin, snacks, was peeled off and stuck sideways to a box of tea. "It looks different," I said, setting my work bag on the table. The table I bought suddenly looked like a prep station I had been allowed to use. Caitlin laughed, not unkind. "I was on a webinar and multitasked. You had duplicates of cumin, did you know? And your baking soda was living with the olive oil. Chaos." She slid a jar into alignment with 2 fingers. "I put your coffee here so it's not in the way." "In the way of what?" I asked, reaching past the oats to touch the cool tin. "Breakfast flow," she said, like it was a concept we'd agreed upon. Levi came in from the hall with a folded cardboard box and a grin he uses when he's guessing at my mood. "Hey, don't freak out. It's awesome. We're trying to make it easier to find stuff. 2 more boxes in the car, just plates, I swear." "Plates," I repeated. "Just until we move," he said quickly. "Good news. We're close to signing. The property manager emailed this morning. Background's clear. Deposit is lined up. They're finishing the flooring this week. We should have a date by Friday. Couple more days." Friday was 2 days away. 2 days was already 5 past what we wrote on the calendar, but I nodded. "Okay." Caitlin rinsed an apple like she owned the faucet. "I'll redo the drawers tomorrow. Your spatulas are hiding." "They're in the 3rd drawer," I said. "For now," she hummed. I stood in my own kitchen without taking my coat off. The lemon magnet stared at me from the fridge, holding last month's power bill. I moved my coffee tin to the front of the shelf and set it next to the mugs I like. Caitlin gave me a bright, patient smile that meant she would move it back the second I blinked. We ate a late dinner at the table, the 3 of us, because Caitlin had made something. Pasta with jarred sauce she dressed up like it was a trick. Levi told a story about a guy from his last job who once microwaved fish in a break room and was never forgiven. We laughed because we are still siblings and because laughing is easier than saying, "Put things back where they go." After they went to watch a show in the spare room, my spare room, I wiped the counter and put the dish soap back under the sink. I reached into the pantry and moved my coffee forward again, a quiet rebellion, then went to bed. In the morning, half asleep, I reached for my coffee and grabbed oats. The tin had migrated behind a bulk bag of chia seeds. I squinted at the shelf, then at the magnets on the fridge, then at myself in the black window. I boiled water anyway. Caitlin came in, ponytail high and purposeful. "Oh, did that move?" She didn't wait for an answer, just slid past me to rearrange the tea. "I made overnight oats if you want some. Vanilla." "I'm good," I said, spooning grounds like a metronome. "Can we just keep my coffee where I put it?" "Totally," she said, voice light, the word that means nothing. I just keep forgetting. Habit. Levi shuffled in wearing my old college hoodie, hair smashed on one side. He kissed the air near Caitlin's cheek. "Morning. Ev, you okay?" "Yep," I said. "Just looking for things." "We're out of paper towels," he said to the air, opening a cabinet I never keep them in. "Have you seen them?" "Under the sink," I said, and we all pretended that's where they'd always been. Work was a relief because my stapler stays where I leave it. I answered emails, processed a windshield claim, ate leftovers at my desk, and told myself a tidy pantry isn't the hill to die on. At 4:57, I shut down my computer and, on autopilot, sent Grace a picture of the alphabetized spices with the caption, "Is this normal, or am I in a home edit episode I didn't consent to?" She sent back 5 laughing emojis and breathe. When I got home, there was a new plant on the windowsill and a candle that smelled like eucalyptus. A note in Caitlin's bubbly handwriting sat on the counter. "Move the oils to the cool side. Don't worry, your coffee is safe." I opened the pantry and found the tin on a lower shelf, front and center, surrounded by a halo of decaf and herbal tea like a shrine. I wanted to be grateful for the order. The cans weren't sticky anymore, and a stack of my old Tupperware actually had the right lids. But I stood there with my keys in my hand and felt like a guest reaching into someone else's cupboard. I made dinner, my dinner, just a simple stir-fry, and put the soy sauce back exactly where I wanted it. Caitlin came in later and moved it 1 inch to the left. She didn't comment. She didn't have to. Around 8, after the dishes were done and the TV in the spare room started up, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from Levi. "Some friends coming by later. You cool?" I stared at Levi's text for a second. "Some friends coming by later. You cool?" And typed, "What time? Quiet by 10, please." He replied, 7-ish. Just a couple people. We'll bring snacks. At 7:20, 4 people I'd never met walked into my living room with a 12-pack and 1 bag of tortilla chips. Caitlin floated behind them, all hostess energy in an apartment that wasn't hers. "Guys, this is Evelyn," she said, like I was the neighbor and not the person paying for the couch they were sitting on. I stacked my work bag on a chair and took a breath. "Coasters are on the coffee table," I said. "Shoes by the door. Bathrooms down the hall. Please keep it down after 10. "Of course," Caitlin chimed. "We're very chill." They were not very chill. They were not bad either. Just comfortable. Someone found my Bluetooth speaker. Someone else opened the pantry and said, "Wow, goals," at the labeled jars. A guy with a mustache used half my roll of paper towels to mop up a beer that foam sprayed when he got animated with his hands. My bottled seltzers disappeared like magic. The blender came out for margaritas without a question, and then the bag of chips ran out and my cheese vanished, grated into a bowl with my microplane. I kept to the edge. This wasn't unsafe or illegal. It was just my home being treated like neutral territory. At 9:58, I stood up and said, smiling, 2-minute warning. Levi put an arm around my shoulders and nodded to the room. "All right, wrap it, people. Work night." They filtered out by 10:15, laughing down the stairwell. Caitlin did a quick swirl in the kitchen, moved 3 cups to the sink, and said, "We'll do the rest in the morning." She kissed the air near my cheek. "You're the best." In the morning, the counters were sticky with lime. The trash was full of beer cans and a lemon that died in the attempt. There were no paper towels left, and the dish soap was a squeeze from empty. I like a clean start to my day, so I cleaned. On my lunch break, I stopped at the store for paper towels, dish soap, eggs, and coffee. The receipt was $41.38. I started a note on my phone, L&K overages. I wrote 41.38 and put the receipt under the lemon magnet when I got home. That weekend, 2 of the same friends dropped by while I was out. I know because the plant on the windowsill had rotated and my good olive oil was lighter. Levi texted a thumbs up emoji when I asked if everything was okay. "All good, just hanging. We'll replace whatever," he wrote. They did replace the olive oil, eventually, with a different brand that smelled like cut grass. I added £12.99 to my note anyway, because I had to go buy my brand again. By the end of October, the apartment felt busy even when it was quiet. The spare room door stayed half closed with a hum of a show going at all hours. Towels multiplied on the back of the bathroom door. My laundry basket turned into a communal suggestion. Twice I opened my fridge and paused because I couldn't find my yogurt behind 3 containers of hummus and leftover takeout that wasn't mine. On November 3rd, my inbox lit up with the electric bill. I opened it standing at the counter. The number made my stomach drop. $394.12. My usual is around $76. I did the subtraction out loud to make sure I wasn't being dramatic. $3.18 more, I said to my own lemon magnet. Water posted 2 days later. $180.37. That's usually $34. Another $146 up. I took photos of both bills and added the increases to my note. Then I scrolled through my own receipts. The paper towels, the dish soap, the eggs that evaporated twice, the coffee I bought again because my tin kept shaving down faster than I drank. The number under groceries hit $205.63 before I stopped. That night, I waited until after dinner and asked, "Hey, can we talk about the bills? Power and water are way up. I made a list of extra groceries too." Levi froze with a fork in his hand, then put it down carefully. "Totally. We'll Venmo you Friday." "I get paid Friday." Caitlin tilted her head, smile soft like a lotion ad. "Could we just tally everything at the end? We're so close to moving. It's simpler." "I'd rather split it now," I said. "It's a lot." Levi reached out and squeezed my shoulder the way he does when he wants me to be on his side. "Friday," he said again. "Promise." I nodded and cleaned up my plate because doing the dishes gives my hands something to do. After they went to bed, I printed the utility emails at work and brought them home. I wrote the increases on a sticky note in block letters. Power, plus $3.18, water, $0.46, groceries $2.05, and stuck it under the lemon magnet with the receipts tucked behind. Friday came. No Venmo. At lunch, I sent Levi the total with a smiley to keep it light. He replied 3 hours later, "Running late today? Can I hit you Monday?" Caitlin added a heart to his message like she was backing vocals. Monday slid by under meetings and a windshield claim that wasn't straightforward. I came home to a cleanish kitchen and a note from Caitlin that said, "Borrowed your mixer, banana bread incoming," with a doodle of a loaf, no Venmo. I didn't text again. I just stood at the fridge, looked at the lemon magnet and the neat stack of proof, and straightened the sticky note so it sat square. On Wednesday morning, I reached for the soy sauce and glanced at the fridge out of habit. The lemon magnet sat alone on a blank white door. The sticky note and the receipts were gone. I stood with the fridge door open, cold air on my knees, staring at a blank white door. The lemon magnet sat there alone like a joke without a punchline. I checked the side of the fridge. Nothing. I opened the junk drawer. Batteries, takeout menus, a pen that didn't write. I lifted the recycling lid and then closed it again because I didn't want to dig through coffee grounds and lime peels before work. I texted Levi, "Did you move the receipts and the sticky note from the fridge?" He replied 5 minutes later, "Oh yeah." Caitlin tidied up, looked cluttered. "We still have them. Don't worry." "Where?" I typed. "Drawer by the stove," he wrote. "Or maybe the folder on the bookshelf." We gathered stuff last night. I opened the drawer by the stove. Oven mitts, a whisk, a spoon rest. The bookshelf held exactly what it held yesterday. Cookbooks, a plant that didn't belong to me, and a stack of mail. No folder. My tongue tasted like pennies. That night, I made tea, set 3 mugs on the table, and said, "Can we sit for 5 minutes?" in the voice I use at work when I have to deny a claim for a reason that isn't anyone's fault. Levi dropped into a chair like he was ready for a commercial break. Caitlin came in with a smile and sat across from me, hands folded, like we were playing nice. "I need a firm move-out date," I said, "and we need to settle the bills so far." Power and water went way up. "I've got the numbers." Caitlin tilted her head. We said we'd Venmo Friday. We're working on it. It's a Wednesday, I said. Last Friday came and went. I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just a lot. Power is up 318. Water is up 146. Groceries I've covered are about 200 so far. 660-something total. Levi reached over and squeezed my shoulder. Ev, we're close. The property manager said Friday for sure. They're just waiting on the last unit to clear out so they can finish the flooring. Can you be patient? 1 more week and we'll be out of your hair. Promise. Caitlin sighed softly, like I'd made her sad. You're making this tense, she said, not unkind, which somehow made me feel worse. We're grateful. We know this isn't ideal. I can't deal with spreadsheets on the fridge. It stresses me out. That was my bill, I said. On my fridge. She looked at Levi, then back at me. We didn't throw anything away. Then where is it? I asked, steady. We'll find it, Levi said quickly. I'll look after this. We'll get you the money Friday. We're not trying to take advantage. I stared at my tea because I didn't want to stare at them. Okay, I said. A firm date, please. Next Wednesday, Levi said, as if he just invented the day of the week. We'll be out by then. Caitlin nodded. Yes. Next Wednesday. Okay, I repeated, because if I said anything else, it might be loud. Next Wednesday. We sat a minute with the spoons clicking against mugs. A neighbor's door down the hall shut. Someone's music thumped once, and then stopped. Caitlin stood up first. Do you want me to start a load of towels? She asked, offering something small. I've got it, I said. They drifted back to the spare room, and the hum of their show started up. I washed 3 clean mugs because I needed to move. Then I pulled my phone and scrolled the note where I'd been tracking totals, added +T as a joke to myself, and stared at the empty spot on the fridge until my phone lit up with Mom's name. Hey, honey, Faith said, voice warm enough to be a blanket. Levi called me sounding upset. What's going on? I took a breath. I asked for a move-out date and for them to split the utilities. The bills are way up. I've covered a lot of groceries. Oh, sweetheart. She's the way she does when a loaf burns. They just need a soft place to land. You know Levi. He's always hated conflict. If you could just be patient a little longer. I've been patient, I said. It was supposed to be 2 weeks. I know, she said, and I believe she did. You're the steady one, Evie. It's why you can handle this. Next Wednesday isn't so far. Could you give them that? Then we regroup. I looked at the blank fridge door and the lemon magnet holding nothing. Okay, I heard myself say, like my mouth was on autopilot and my stomach wasn't. 1 more week. You're a good sister, Faith said, relieved. I'll remind them to be grateful. After we hung up, the apartment felt small in a way I couldn't fix with Lysol. My phone buzzed again. Grace. How's the situation, Rumi? I sent her a photo of the empty fridge front. She wrote back in a heartbeat. You're not crazy. Write everything down. I opened my laptop and started a folder on the desktop. Plan B. I dragged in screenshots of the bill emails, saved my texts with Levi as PDFs, typed out dates in a simple timeline. OC each 1, move in. OC 14, original end. NOV 3, electric bill spike. NOV 5, water. NOV 6, no Venmo. NOV 9, no Venmo. NOV 11, receipts removed. I titled a blank document, Agreement Draft, and didn't fill it in yet. I took photos of the pantry and the living room, not because anything was wrong in a legal way, but because it made me feel like I had a record of what changed. On Thursday, Caitlin found the receipts in the hall closet weird and set them on the counter without meeting my eyes. Friday came. No Venmo. Levi texted late. Hard week? Sorry. Monday? I didn't reply. I shut my laptop and put the lemon magnet in the drawer so I wouldn't have to look at it. Next Wednesday arrived and nothing moved. Their coats stayed on the hooks, their yoga mat in the hall, their show humming in the spare room. I stood in the doorway and said, "What's the plan?" and got, "We're working on it," and "Just a couple more days." I said, "Okay," because I had stopped believing anyone heard anything else. Then came Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving morning started with the smell of brine when I opened the fridge. I'd thawed the turkey 4 days, patted it dry last night, and tucked it into a stock pot with salt, citrus, and bay leaves like I've done the last 2 years. The oven beeped to temp. I laid out my recipes, printouts with greasy thumbprints, and set the cutting board where I like it, next to the sink. We decided, weeks ago before the calendar turned into a suggestion, that I'd host again. Faith's condo is cozy. My table seats 6 if you don't mind bumping knees. Levi and Caitlin had offered to help with the menu. That help arrived at 9:30 on 2 legs, wearing an apron with Caitlin embroidered across the chest in looping script. "Chef's here," she sang, clipping her hair back with a claw. "Ev, that bird looks stunning. I'll take it from here. You sit with the kids." There were kids because Caitlin had invited her friend Alyssa and Alyssa's husband, Ben, who brought 2 elementary schoolers and a container of green beans. She told me yesterday, "They don't have family in town and it's just 2 more plates." I looked at my table and counted chairs and said, "Okay," because saying no is a muscle I hadn't used. "The parade's starting," one of the kids yelled from the living room, where Levi had cued a streaming link. Paper turkeys I cut from printer paper last night sat in a stack with crayons. Faith arrived with a pie she bought and put on a plate, kissed my cheek and said, "Smells wonderful, honey." I was basting when Caitlin slid between me and the oven with a smile. "Shoo," she said, wiggling her fingers, playful like a sitcom. "Go sit. I've got this. Levi, can you help me plate the charcuterie?" People laughed. I smiled because that's what you do when someone teases you in your own kitchen and everyone decides it's adorable. I stepped back, wiped my hands on a towel, and Ariana, one of the kids, handed me a crayon. "Can you make a turkey that looks like a hand?" she asked. "Absolutely," I said, and drew 5 lopsided feathers. From the couch, Faith said, "Let her play chef for once, Evie. You do so much." In the kitchen, Caitlin moved like she was doing a demo. She resorted my knives and announced substitutions without asking. "We're roasting the Brussels with balsamic, not maple," she decided. My soy sauce slid 1 inch left as if by instinct. She labeled 2 serving bowls with sticky notes in her neat script. Levi floated between rooms doing whatever task was in front of his nose. Opening wine, snapping a photo of the turkey for Instagram, finding napkins because he told me he'd buy them and didn't. Ben asked where to set the green beans. "Anywhere," I said. Then Caitlin cut in with, "Counter, thanks, I'll plate." When I stood up to refill the water pitcher, Caitlin did the finger wiggle again, grin bright. "You sit with the kids," she repeated. "I'm on this." It was my stove, my cutting board, my knives. I sat anyway, between Ariana and her brother, and showed them how to fold paper into little boats. Levi looked over and gave me the shoulder-squeezed face from across the room. "Be patient." We ate at 2. The turkey was juicy because I did the boring prep, and Caitlin did the final flourish. She had Levi carve like he was the star of a magazine. Faith squeezed my hand under the table and told Caitlin, "You really know how to host." Like all of this wasn't balanced on my utilities and a rented oven. We cleared plates. By we, I mean everyone except me. I stayed put. When they started stacking dishes, I didn't stand. I let Levi and Caitlin load the dishwasher wrong and smiled at Ariana's coloring instead. It felt like not flinching when someone expects you to. Pie came out at 4. Pumpkin, Store-bought but on my cake stand. I ate my slice, complimented Alyssa's green beans, and didn't reach for the sponge when the plate scraped. The sink filled. The faucet ran. I picked up a crayon and dated my turkey drawing, 11/28. After the door closed on Alyssa and her family, the apartment went quiet in a way that had weight. Faith hugged Caitlin and said, "Lovely," then hugged me and said, "Thank you for making space." She didn't stay to help clean. That wasn't unusual, and that was the point. Caitlin finally exhaled, leaned against the counter, and said, "We did it," like we were teammates. Levi opened the dishwasher and rearranged 2 plates. "That was good," he said, trying on satisfaction. "Nice to have people." "Yep," I said. I took my recipes off the counter and stacked them. My cutting board was wet. I dried it and slid it into its slot. Caitlin moved the soy sauce 1 inch left without thinking, then caught my eye and froze, like she finally saw me see it. "I'm going to take a walk," I said, and grabbed my coat. Outside, the air was cold enough to feel like a decision. I looped our block, past Rose's door just as she came out with a Tupperware of rolls under foil. "It's a full house today," she said, eyebrow raised. "Yep," I said. "Good food." She said, and didn't add anything else. She didn't have to. Back inside, the dishwasher hummed. The TV was off. Levi and Caitlin were in the spare room, voices low. I went to my desk in the corner of my bedroom and opened my laptop. I didn't type. I pulled a manila envelope from the bottom drawer and put it on the bed. I slid into it a printed 30-day notice template I'd found last night. My last 2 pay stubs. A list I'd titled Things I Control. I wrote at the top of a clean page, "No more debates, only dates." I tucked the pen inside, sealed the flap, and slipped the envelope into my work bag by the door. Then I turned off the kitchen light with my elbow, left the sink as it was, and didn't look back. The manila envelope rode to work in my bag the morning after Thanksgiving. I printed a 30-day notice from the template I'd saved, filled in my name and unit, and wrote the end date, December 31st. I signed, scanned it at the copier, and emailed Cameron with the PDF. Subject line, Notice to Vacate, Unit 3C, 1231. I CC'd the general office address because Cameron is by the book, and so am I when I decide to be. On my lunch break, I dropped the hard copy in the office slot downstairs and took a photo of my hand sliding it in. Timestamp, just in case. Saturday, I drove across town to see a studio I'd bookmarked 2 weeks ago when sleep wouldn't stick. 2nd floor of a brick 4-plex, 3 windows along one wall, the kind of old wood floor that clicks under your heel. The manager, a calm woman named Lila, handed me a paper application and said, "First available is January 1st. Perfect. I gave her my pay stubs from the envelope, my ID, and my application fee. On the way home, I put a cheap tape gun and a stack of banker's boxes in my cart at the hardware store. Monday morning, Cameron replied, "Got your notice. Thanks for the heads up. Lease will end 12/31. I can meet at noon for a quick walkthrough. Javier can start at 12:15 to patch paint. Please leave both sets of keys on the counter." He added, as he always does, a line about prorating if needed. I replied, "Noon works. Utilities will stop same day." At my desk, I opened tabs I've opened a dozen times for other reasons and scheduled them for me. Power off 12:31 at noon. Water off end of day 12:31. Internet canceled 12:31. I printed the confirmations and slid them into a new folder labeled Move Out. I set reminders on my phone like I was someone I take care of. Wednesday at lunch, I met Lila again. We sat at a little desk in the empty studio and signed 2 copies of a lease. Move-in, January 1st. I handed over my deposit and first month, and she handed me a receipt and said, "Keys at 9 a.m. the 1st. We'll have the place cleaned and the paint finished by then. The room smelled like primer and cold air. I stood for a minute by the window and let the idea settle. Small, quiet, mine. Back at Maple Court, I started with the hallway closets when Levi and Caitlin went out to meet friends. I flattened boxes and filled them with books, off-season clothes, my least used pots. I labeled everything in black marker: books, winter, tools. Rose opened her door as if she'd felt the cardboard. "Finally," she said, holding it wide as I wrestled a box into the hall. "Want me to keep the door?" "Please," I said, breathless. She braced it with her hip and watched me make 2 trips to my trunk. "About time," she added, not unkind. "You need tape?" She handed me a roll without waiting for my answer. I stacked the full boxes alongside the back wall of my bedroom so they wouldn't shout. I left my day-to-day life in place so nothing would look changed to someone who only half looks. I took photos of each room anyway, what was there, how it was, because part of me needed a record. That night, after they came home and turned on their show, I drafted something simple on my laptop. 1 page, plain language. Utilities end 12:31 at noon. Lease ends 12:31. Cameron will arrive at 12 Sarksiren for walkthrough. Javier at 12:15. Please have all personal belongings out and keys on the counter by 12 on 12:31. If keys are not returned, or if there is damage beyond wear and tear, I will file in small claims with photos and an itemized bill. At the bottom, I added the itemization I'd been building and rounded the numbers because the exact cents don't matter if the principal does. Power over age, $318. Water over age, $146. Groceries, yam household, $2.5. Total, $669. I kept my tone neutral. No adjectives, just facts. I texted Grace a photo of the draft and waited. She replied, "Chef's kiss. Put dates in bold. Also add, I'm forgiving the $669 if keys are down by noon. Give them a win they don't deserve." I added, "If keys are returned by 12 tomorrow on 12/31, I will waive the $669. If not, I will proceed with small claims." I put the numbers in bold. I printed 3 copies, 1 for the fridge, 1 for my folder, 1 for just in case. When I taped up another box, the sound made me jump. Caitlin's laugh floated from the spare room. Levi's voice followed low. I packed my mixing bowls and left the ugly one behind so I could still cook. I pulled my suitcase from under my bed and rolled socks like a person going on a trip and not a person exiting her own home. On Sunday, while Levi was at the gym and Caitlin was at a farmer's market, I moved a few more boxes to my trunk. Rose held the door again like a sentry. "You okay?" she asked, not prying. "Yep," I said. "Just doing the boring parts." "Those are the parts that stick," she said, and went back inside. Before bed, I set everything on the kitchen table. The printed agreement, the utility confirmations, Cameron's email, Javier's time written in thick marker, 12:15. I taped the itemization to the bottom of the agreement so it read like 1 page. I put a strip of blue painter's tape at the top so in the morning I wouldn't fumble. I turned off the light and left the lemon magnet in the drawer because this needed more than a cute prop. In my room, I checked my list, things I control, and put a check next to 3 items. The apartment was dark except for the sliver of streetlight through the blinds. Somewhere down the hall, a door shut, and the building went quiet. At sunrise, I would tape everything to the fridge. At sunrise, I taped the papers to the fridge and made coffee. I sat at the table I bought and watched the steam curl while the apartment waited. Levi wandered in first, hair flat on one side. He read the top page, then the bolded line about keys by noon. His mouth opened and closed. Ev. Caitlin came in behind him. apron folded over her arm like a talisman. Her eyes landed on the numbers, then the sentence about the $669. Her voice went sharp like a knife on ceramic. You can't be serious. I am, I said, steady. This is my move out. The lease ends today at noon. Power switches off at noon. Water by end of day. Internet's canceled. Cameron's coming at 12 quarts. Javier at 12:15. Levi ran a hand through his hair. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know, I said, because I really didn't. But I'm done being your landing pad. Keys on the counter by noon, and I waive the $669. After that, I file in small claims with photos and the itemized bills. Caitlin's laugh was a short burst. You blindsided us. I gave notice to the office a month ago, I said. I told you dates. I asked for a firm plan. I've covered utilities, groceries. I'm not debating anymore. It's dates. She looked at Levi, then back at me. We just need a couple more days. I can't extend it, I said. The utilities are scheduled. Cameron has the paperwork. Javier's already booked. I'm out at noon. Levi leaned against the counter, reading the page again like it might change. Ev, can we at least? He stopped when he saw my face and tried a different angle. Okay. We'll pack. We'll figure it out. They moved in fast motion then, the way people do when the clock starts ticking and choices shrink. Levi pulled the yoga mat from the hall, stacked their shoes, started a bag with chargers and toiletries. Caitlin took the sticky notes off my serving bowls like she was undoing a spell and tucked them into her purse. She wiped a spot on the counter that didn't need wiping and then opened the spare room closet to the sigh of an overstuffed bar. We can't get all of this out by noon, she said to the clothes, not to me. You can take your essentials now, I said. If anything's left at noon, Cameron will advise what happens next. They looked at each other, calibrating. Levi grabbed a box and started loading plates I didn't recognize. Hers I remembered from week 2. He made 3 trips to their car. Caitlin texted someone with quick thumbs, then started folding clothes into a laundry bag. The show hum that had been constant for weeks was blessedly absent. The apartment sounded like a house that had decided to get smaller. At 11:43, my phone buzzed. Grace, you got this. I texted back a checkmark and slid the phone face down. At 11:50, Faith called. I let it go to voicemail and read the transcript on my screen. Honey, Levi says you're ending the lease today. Can we talk? Be patient a little longer. I put the phone in my bag. I could call her later after the job was done. Caitlin paused at the fridge and tapped the papers with one fingernail. The small claims threat is a lot, she said. It's not a threat if it's true, I said. I documented everything. I'm offering to waive it if keys are down by noon. Levi came in from the stairs, wind in his jacket. He set a final box by the door and checked the time on the stove. 11:56. Right on noon's heels, a knock. Cameron's knock is 3 even taps. He stood in the doorway, clipboard in hand, neat as a checklist. Morning, he said, eyes taking in the packed boxes by my bedroom door and the cleared counters. He glanced at the tape notice, then at me. Got your email. We're set for the walkthrough at 12. Javier's in the hall. Behind him, Javier shifted his weight, tool bag at his feet, steel-toe boots, and a calm face. He nodded like he had to the building 100 times. Caitlin straightened like she was about to host him. Cameron raised a polite hand. Once Evelyn surrenders possession at noon, maintenance starts. Utilities are set to end today. If you need to coordinate any pickups after, you'll need to arrange it with the office. His tone stayed even, nothing personal. By the book. Levi looked at me, then at Cameron, then at the keys in the bowl by the door. The clock on the microwave ticked to 11:58. He picked up the spare set and then the originals I lent them in October. He held them like a coin he didn't want to spend and placed them on the counter. The sound was small and final, Caitlin's hand stayed on the back of a chair for a beat, knuckles white. Then she took her tote and slipped her arm through the handles. She didn't meet my eyes. "We'll figure it out," she muttered, which was not an apology. I nodded. "I'm forgiving the $669, I said. "Good luck." Levi squeezed my shoulder once, the old signal, and let his hand drop. "Thanks, Ev," he said, voice tight. They walked past Cameron and Javier into the hall. Cameron stepped inside, checked the stove, the windows, the bathroom. While he made notes, I took my own keys off my ring and set them beside Levi's. Noon rolled over. The apartment felt different instantly, like a held breath finally let out. Cameron looked up and nodded. "All set. Javier?" Javier lifted his bag. 15 minutes, he said, to no one and everyone. I picked up my last box, the one with my coffee tin and the lemon magnet, and followed Cameron to the door. It clicked behind us. The building's hallway smelled faintly of fresh paint and cold air. For the first time in 8 weeks, the apartment on the other side exhaled. Lila met me at the fourplex right at 9 with a ring of 2 keys and a smile that didn't try too hard. "Heat's on low and the paint's dry," she said, holding the door while I carried my first box. "Happy New Year." "Happy New Year," I said, and stepped into my studio. It smelled like paint and cold air. The old wood floor clicked under my shoes. 3 windows took up most of the outside wall, a plain square of sky beyond them. I set the box on the counter and took a breath that didn't catch on anyone else's schedule. I'd stayed on Grace's couch the night before with my suitcase and the box that had my coffee tin and the lemon magnet. She handed me a blanket and didn't make it a thing. "You did it," she said, like a fact. And in the morning she pressed a travel mug into my hand and said, "Go get your keys." Now I had them. I opened cabinets. I picked the shelf for my coffee, second from the top, right of the mugs, and put the tin there. I left it where I left it. I hung my winter coat in the little closet on cedar hangers I'd grabbed on sale. The smell made the room feel cleaner than it was. I slid my suitcase under the window and stacked a box labeled books next to it. The stack looked like a nightstand if you squinted. I made 2 trips from my car and then 2 more, slow and careful because the stairs were narrow. A man in the downstairs unit passed me once and nodded. "Welcome," he said, opening his door with his hip. "Thanks," I said. By noon, I had a bed frame leaning against a wall and a mattress still in plastic. I opened one of the banker's boxes and set my plates in the cabinet, 2 by 2. I pulled out the lemon magnet, held it, and put it in the drawer with the takeout menus Leela had left. I tore a piece of blue painter's tape and wrote January budget on it with a Sharpie. The page listed rent, power, water, grocery, gas. I taped it to the fridge and pressed the corners flat. My phone buzzed on the counter. Mom. "Hi, honey," Faith said, voice warm and worried. "I don't like how it happened yesterday." I looked at my coffee tin where I wanted it. "I didn't like how it was happening to me," I said. "I told you the dates. I kept it calm." "I know," she said softer. "I know. I just hate tension." Levi sounded shaken. "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I just ended my lease." I kept my voice even. I could hear her breathing, thinking it over. "You're a good sister," she said. "I love you." "I love you too," I said. "I'm okay." After we hung up, I texted Rose a photo of the empty corner of the old living room, then a picture of my new windows. "Thanks for the door holds," I wrote. She sent back a thumbs up and about time. Levi's text came mid-afternoon. A single thumbs up and, "We'll figure it out." I stared at it for a second, waiting for the ask that didn't come. I typed back, "Take care." He hearted it. No apology, no promise, just space between us where a favor used to be. I walked to the corner store for staples: bread, eggs, milk, a plant in a plastic sleeve by the cash register because the green looked like hope. The clerk cracked a smile when I put it on the counter. "New place?" he asked, nodding at my key ring. "Yeah," I said. "First day." Back upstairs, I ran the faucet and filled a glass. I watered the plant until the soil went dark and set it on the sill. I turned the burner and made eggs in my one pan and ate them sitting on an upside-down box that will be a nightstand when I find a screwdriver. The apartment hummed with the kind of quiet that isn't empty. You can hear your own fork, your own breath. The heat ticked on. The tape on the fridge held. I put my receipts in the drawer next to the lemon magnet and didn't stick anything to the door. I opened the window an inch and let in a slice of cold. I texted Grace a picture of my table, and she sent back, "Fancy, proud of you." As the light went down, I made the bed and wrestled the mattress out of the plastic. I set my lamp on the stack of books and turned it on. I plugged in my phone, set Do Not Disturb, and walked through the one room like it was a whole house. The floor creaked a little by the closet. The bathroom fan rattled when I flicked it. The stovetop tilted 1 degree left. I slipped a folded card under the front right foot and it evened out. Before sleep, I opened my laptop and moved the Plan B folder to a new one called Done. I didn't delete anything. I didn't have to look at it either. I washed my one mug and set it next to the coffee maker. I placed the tin where my hand would find it without thinking. In the morning, there would be work and boxes and a walk to learn my block. Tonight, there was just quiet and a plant taking a long drink on a windowsill I chose. Boundaries, finally, and they hold.